Standing by, he's been taking a look at the numbers.
Thanks, Sarah Jane. I mean, actually, yeah, this is a big day because it's not just about the budget, it's also about the spending review. And we haven't had one of those for quite some time. We haven't had a kind of multi-year spending review looking at just how much money the government is spending since 2015. And really, the last time that was, you had a spending review where money was going up rather than being cut. So an actual spending review rather than an austerity review. You've got to go all the way back to Gordon Brown's era. So this is quite a new thing. It's not just the budget, it's also the spending review. But there's three things to look out for, OK? We're going to get an update in the forecast. So growth forecast is, probably the one that's going to catch the eye the most. This is economic growth, gross domestic product, the amount of income that we're generating across the economy. And you can probably see, look, that's the pandemic there, so 2020. And then you've got this rebound. And here's the thing to look out for. What happens to these two bars? 4% growth in the year we're in at the moment and 7.3%. These were the forecasts last time around. Last time the OBR looked at that. But do those go up? And also, what happens over here? Is the long-term outlook for the economy relatively strong? We are expecting the OBR to upgrade those two things, and that means potentially more money for the Chancellor to play with, and it potentially also means less of this stuff, borrowing, the deficit. The amount that we are borrowing as a country each year has been enormous in the last few years. But first of all, that's coming down. But second of all, these bars might be a fair bit lower based on those new OBR forecasts. But here's the other thing to look out for. The Chancellor is going to announce new fiscal rules to try and keep that in check. And that kind of brings us back to that spending review. But another thing I just want to talk about, and when it comes to the spending review, actually, let's just have a look at what we're talking about. It is an enormous amount of money that the government spends. That's basically the total amount the government spends. But the bit that we're focusing on here when it comes to spending are these red bars here, resource spending, departmental spending, and just how much is going in there. So we'll give you an update on how big those bars are getting and where all that money is going. But the final thing I want to just underline is this, the cost of living. This chart here showing you just how much energy prices, gas prices in particular, have rocketed in the last few months. How does the Chancellor deal with that? What does he do to make households that little bit better off as a result of that? And given they've got the squeeze coming from the end of that universal credit uplift, what does he do about that as well? So lots of questions, both about households and about the state of the government, and we'll bring you all the analysis as that comes through.
Ed, thank you. There's no one better with numbers, except perhaps you hope the Chancellor Rishi Sunak. That statement coming up, of course, this afternoon. You can watch it live here on Sky News. In the meantime, let's get some of that build-up. Our political correspondent Tamara Cohen is in the hotspot of Downing Street. We're expecting to see the Chancellor fairly soon. And we've been getting a bit of an insight into how the Chancellor is preparing for this budget tomorrow, obviously with all those leaked announcements. But also, he was reading his statement to the dog last night. We saw a picture of the dog asleep on his lap. Hopefully that's not an omen. And also about his sugary snacks before he heads to give that statement.
Morning, Sarah Jane. Yes, the dog got the exclusive read about what's in today's budget, although the Cabinet have just been in number 10 hearing the details of it too. And we've had quite a lot of details already, 19 announcements in advance worth around £30 billion. And I think the reason that he did that is because the Treasury, although they got into trouble for doing this, want to make the most of the good news that is in there. The Chancellor is saying there are reasons for optimism, the economic outlook is good, and what he'll be doing with those extra billions that he didn't expect to have are putting them into public services and giving everybody, including public sector workers, a pay rise next year. So that's the good news, and he wants to make sure we fully digested it. But there's going to obviously be painful news today as well. Some of the unprotected departments, local councils who fund social care, they are not going to get much more money. In fact, the local government has less money now than it did in 2010, and that's going to be difficult in terms of getting the NHS backlog down, which is, of course, what they want to do by the next election. And I think what's really concerning for Tory MPs is the crisis with living standards. You've got rising inflation, people paying higher fuel bills, and all these pay rises are not going to come in until next April, when, of course, we've got a national insurance rise. So the concern is, are people going to feel better off, especially when the millions of people who are on universal credit will see that cut back? And I think a couple of things we should look out for today. We're probably going to see fuel duty frozen again. That's not very much in line with the government's green agenda. But as we know, petrol and diesel have become very expensive of late. And so the government doesn't want to add that burden to household bills. So I'm sure that will go get a cheer in the House of Commons. We also think the Chancellor may tinker a bit with universal credit in response to what's really a groundswell of opposition from Tory MPs. He's not going to reverse the £20 a week, but he may look at giving people more of what they earn if they are in work. If that does happen, we'll have to look carefully at whether that comes in, because unless it happens immediately, it won't help much over the winter. So we've got a Chancellor who's trying to, after two budgets overshadowed by the COVID crisis and having to spend enormous amounts of money, is now trying to reinvent himself as the Chancellor for the recovery, trying to hold on tightly to those public finances. But of course, while he hopes that we're in the post-COVID age, we don't really know how that's going to go over the winter. And I think the concern, which I'm sure Labour will be articulating very strongly today, is that the support for households and for businesses that they may need over these difficult winter months may not be there.
OK, Tamara, thank you. All the build-up as we wait for the Chancellor to emerge from that door at number 11. The last few budgets he's given, he's appeared on his own, presumably because of COVID restrictions, but we are expecting some of his team from the Treasury to be with him, but not Simon Clarke MP. He's put out a tweet today saying, "I'm really looking forward to explaining the budget and spending review alongside the Chancellor. I won't be outside for the photos in Downing Street as I live with agoraphobia, which prevents me being comfortable in some open spaces." Just a little tweet from Simon Clarke ahead of that. So we are expecting Rishi Sunak with some members of his team, but not Simon Clarke for those reasons he explained on social media. And now, with soaring prices, concern about inflation and record rises in the cost of living, there have been many warnings that this is set to be a particularly difficult winter. Well, joining me now is Andrew Sykes. He is the Funding and Development Manager for the Noah's Ark Centre, which offers debt advice and counselling to the people of Halifax. Andrew, hello, good morning to you.
Morning.
We've been hearing in the build-up to this budget from Rishi Sunak that as life is starting to return to normal, we need to have a budget that reflects normal operations. The families that you speak to at Noah's Ark, do they feel like things are returning to normal?
I think when Rishi Sunak added the £20 a week to universal credit back in the summer of 2020, most people believe that that uplift to UC would be permanent. That £20 a week is £86.67. That's a cut that's coming in this month for 22,000 families in Calderdale, and that will have a huge impact on those families, coupled with the way the energy prices are increasing. We've got the fuel price cap, which by April next year will be about £350 a year higher than it is now. We've got fuel and food prices, and the rate of inflation is galloping away. The real pressures on poor families, and it's the poorest families who are going to be the ones that suffer the most.
And it's not just this £20 that's being taken away in the universal credit changes. The benefits have been cut for years. I think it's the Institute of Fiscal Studies that were saying over the last 5 or 6 years, billions have been wiped off benefits. And the families of the people you speak to have been dealing with that. And as a consequence of that, they have found themselves in debt. Tell me what life has been like for them.
So people talk about levelling up. It's this buzz phrase at the moment. It's levelling up. So Andy, who was a client who came to us last week, he's aged 24. He's an ex-serviceman, did 5 years in the army. He's made multiple attempts on his life. And the issue for that he has is that he's £15,000 in debt. And he needs support, and he needs hope, and he needs opportunity. Andy's universal credit has just been cut from the princely sum of £344 a month to £257, but he has debts that deducted off his universal credit 25% of his UC, which means he gets about £197 a month, which is £44 a week. He's 24 years old, and his income today is 44% lower than it was 2 months ago. How does Andy survive? Well, he gets survival through hope and opportunity by coming to a charity like mine, because we give hope and opportunity to the people we work with. And I hope that this budget will demonstrate that actually the people out there in the powers that be are listening to people like me and to the poorest in society, the furthest away, the ones that this levelling up agenda is supposed to be supporting. They need more than empty promises and words.
What does levelling up mean to them?
What does it mean to them? I think, again, about this thing about opportunity, doesn't it? I think people like Andy, they need support. They need help, for example, with their debts. Now, a really interesting thing that's happening in the March next year is that the Money and Pension Service, which commission face-to-face debt advice, has decided its wisdom that in West Yorkshire, the number of face-to-face debt advisors will be cut from 32 to 12, because they believe that people like Andy and everybody else will be able to do it digitally. or over the telephone, which is a nonsense. So there are storms coming further down the line next year for poorer people. They'll have all the issues around the pressures on their income, but also issues around the services that support them now, potentially not having the funding to actually continue to do that support.
There really does feel like there's a big gap between government action and what's happening to real people, and that's reflected on all the reports that we've been carrying here on Sky News, where we've been out and about, up and down the country, talking to real people about what life is like. What is local government, local councils doing to fill that gap? Have they got any power? Have they even got any money?
Well, first of all, our charity doesn't receive any funding from the local council for our support projects. I'm not being critical of the council there because they've been under lots of pressure over the last...
Is that simply because they can't afford to help you?
I don't really want to get into that conversation, really, but I think they've suffered for the last 10 years because of austerity in 2009 that's impacted their budget for 10, 12 years now, and they struggled to commission services that are actually what the community needs because they have a limited pot of money.
Final question. What do you want to hear from the Chancellor today? We've talked about these short-term measures that will help people this winter, and as Kate McCann, our political correspondent, said, there's actually very little he can do to make an immediate impact. But what will you be looking out for?
I'd love it if the Chancellor reinstated the £20 per week uplift. I'd like it if the taper relief, which is this when someone's working at the moment, if for every £1 you earn, you lose 63 pence of your benefit. I'd love it if the taper relief was cut so that working people on universal credit kept more of their money. This increase the minimum wage is worth 22p an hour to someone on universal credit. I'd like to see that be worth more.
And it doesn't come in until April as well.
No, exactly.
OK.
No.
All right, really good to talk to you, Andrew Sykes, from the Noah's Ark Centre here in Halifax. Thank you very much. Well, just to remind you, we'll be bringing the budget live right here on Sky News today as the Chancellor takes to his feet at around 12:30. That's happening straight after Prime Minister's questions. And we'll continue to bring you full coverage in the run-up to the big moment, along with detailed analysis from all our specialist correspondents throughout the day here on Sky News. You're watching Sky News Budget Special live from Halifax. Coming up after the break, we'll be speaking to the Shadow Chief Treasury Secretary to the Treasury.
They say they can't go back to Myanmar yet. If they do, they fear they'll be killed. We take you to the heart of the stories that shape our world. If there is a bigger explosion, this area would be in the danger zone. These traffic jams snake for hours up and down this hillside. It means pressures aid can't access those in need. You can see the depth of the water. If you have a look in front of us, there are people wading through it. I think experiencing the 2 million person march in Hong Kong, that was a moment.
I don't like the Chinese government. It's cruel.
It was real people power in action.
Police have been firing tear gas and rubber bullets.
See fires all around us here, and just one of them is the size of around 31,000 football pitches. Siobhan Robbins, Sky News, Bangkok.
Hello, welcome back to Sky News Live from Halifax in West Yorkshire today as we build up to the budget 2021. I'm joined by our political correspondent, Kate McCann. Kate, we're in the Peace Hall, which is beautiful. Somebody got in touch to say, are we in Venice? No, we're very much in Halifax. It's gorgeous here. Yeah. And this used to be a place where they traded cloth, but now it's home to so many small businesses, and they'll all be keeping a close eye on what Rishi Sunak says this afternoon.
Yeah, they'll be a little bit worried, I think, about the changes to the living wage. Although they don't come in until April, for a small business employing somebody, increasing their wages can mean quite a big difference. And we've already heard from the Federation of Small Businesses that there are some that are saying we might have to let people go, we might have to give them shorter hours, we might even have to close altogether. So they've been asking the Chancellor to address that in this budget, to say, look, we will do something at the bottom end for smaller businesses to help you mitigate that increase. And actually, I was speaking to Simon Clark, who you were just talking about there. He won't be in the shop for the budget, but he's the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, and he was saying earlier this week, we are always aware and alive to this issue with businesses. And remember, part of this budget, we're talking about how people feel, but it's also a marker for the Conservative Party to say, look, we are still Conservative. There's been some big questions about whether they are still looking out for businesses, a traditional tenet of being a Tory. The party will be looking for that, so will business. So there has to be something in this budget for them. The question is, what will it be? Because it won't be change on business rates. Labour says the party should look again, should have a complete rethink. That's what Labour's proposing. We don't think that that is going to happen. But what else could the Chancellor do to try and make things a little bit easier for business? That's the question I think that lots of people will be looking for an answer to today.
This is also where the Chancellor sets out spending for the next 3 years. And of course, when you look at the next 3 years, that will be a build-up to a general election. It's also a chance for departments to look at what cash they've got to spend. What departments do you think that the Chancellor will prioritise?
So this is the really big question today. Beyond what happens to all of us and how we feel at the end of the day, what we've got in our pockets, it's about departments too. And that's a big deal because, as you say, it can set an agenda for policy. And there will be lots of departments that people might think would be asking for more cash. But over the course of the last couple of weeks, I've been speaking to some of those Secretaries of State. And some of them that you might have thought would be asking the Chancellor for more money are actually saying, you know what, we can probably just about manage. Now, that's fascinating because that suggests to me, and I may well be wrong, we don't know until he says it, that maybe they've been given a signal by Rishi Sunak that you'd be lucky to get much more than what you're getting at the moment. There'll be some departments who want to make sure they don't lose out, so they'll want to have a flat or, you know, a small increase. Some may well lose out in this spending review, and that will be fascinating to see who those people are. I mean, questions about the Justice Department, for example, huge backlog in the courts. Is it possible to change that with efficiencies? Some people think it is, some people think it needs more cash. That will be what Rishi Sunak has to decide on. And what he does there will set the tone, I think. He wants to be fiscally responsible. He wants to make sure by the end of the Parliament that things are pretty much balanced. He knows he's going to have a bit more money to play with. Tamara was just saying that before the OBR is going to revise its growth expectations upwards, we think. But will he try and hold on to some of that, as you say, with an idea in the back of his mind that coming up to an election, that might be the moment to cut taxes? And if he's got that in his back pocket, he knows he can do it.
And we know so much about what he's going to announce already in terms of spending. Just quickly, what do we think the rabbit out of the hat moment will be?
Fascinating question. Probably not VAT on energy bills. Okay. Could it potentially be the UC rate uplift? That might be the one.
Yeah, you get the feeling it has to be something that people can feel straight away heading into winter. Yeah, it's a tough winter ahead for so many. Kate, thank you for the moment. Kate with me throughout the day here in Halifax. You're watching Sky News, a Sky News budget special, live from West Yorkshire, coming up after the break. The Chancellor is preparing to head to the Commons. We'll be taking a look through all the opinions and talking points as Rishi Sunak departs to deliver that budget.
We're the Guardians of the Galaxy!
Absolutely commission free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Starr, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse. Hi there! Are you dreaming of owning your own house in Ghana? Then you will need a well-documented piece of land that is free from troubles. I highly recommend My Africa Property for any size of land that you will need. With My Africa Property, lands are available in Prampram, Sopoli, Tohenia, Ogome, Dodova, Winneba, and many other locations at affordable prices. These locations are about an hour away from the airport, only 35 minutes from the motorway, 10 minutes drive from Central University College, 10 minutes drive to the beach, and close to Prampram Senior High School and Ghana Men's Soccer Center of Excellence. For more details, visit our website www.myafricaproperty.com or call our UK office on 0208 123 2523. For our US and Canada offices, call us on +1 585 184 994145. You can also email us at ghana@myafricaproperty.com.
Hello, lovely listeners. Tune in to the renewed show with Charlotte. Make it a date to listen to me this and every Thursday at 5 p.m. on Starr Radio UK. Tune in to an hour of power, an hour of encouragement, an hour to inspire you to stay positive and strong in this season. See you there and listen.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour show is your best source into the property industry.
Tune in to On Point here on Starr Radio UK with Empress Regina every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT. Looking forward to your company.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and in time? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination in time. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820, or you can visit our website www.welllamp.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamp@gmail.com. Well Lamp Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clements, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Check me out. He tells me my energy is making him tired.
Yes!
How do you get the energy to do
I've been told that I have a lot of energy, but my goodness, I think today I have met my match, people. I have met my match, Miss Suzanne. Wow, amazing.
One of the things that's the start of digging the hole of darkness.
So what did that?
Myself and the world will adjust. And 2019.
Forget the proverbial boardroom. Join me, Simone Frazier, on The CEO, the program that gives you the driving seat over your life. Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. only on Starr Radio.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
Turn it on. Turn it up.
Body is your man. Bekutu, show them you got the cocoa set. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Harry Song, aka Mr. Songs. This is the Kingmaker Baba for the girls. We're here. This is Star Radio. Don't go nowhere. UK, London. We they call them London for home. For here, we they call them London. And that's how you know. Just have fun and stay blessed.
Hi there, this is CJ Buckman, your life coach. And whenever I'm in London, I listen to Star Radio UK right here. But guess what? You can listen to wherever you are.
The best radio show. Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
All around the world. In your car.
At work.
At home.
On your smartphone.
This is Star Radio UK.
Are you ready to turn it up?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Hey listeners, this is Starr Radio UK.
This is Star Radio UK.
Everybody say, Lord, Lord, I'm here to sing my praises for all you have done. And I will lift my voice to give you thanks and say you are God. For your love and your grace, for your faithfulness each day. All honor, all glory to you.
Oh yes, hello. Well, let me say massive good morning to you wherever you might be on planet Earth. Those of you on other planets as well, we salute you. But like my normal salutation goes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth. To all our wonderful listeners who are tuning in this morning to listen to us, I salute you. Especially those of you outside or on the African continent, where it costs an arm and a leg for you to use your data to listen to us. But all in all, you continue to do so, and I cherish it so greatly. Because you have been a proper participant, not a passive one. And it's Starr Radio UK. I salute you once again. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the morning show. Today is the 27th day of October, the year 2021. And in the UK, it is a budget day. Well, though we've had snip view of some areas that the Chancellor of the Exchequer hopes to touch on. Some way, somehow, he's got a few to unveil, to pull out from his bag. So we're going to be taking you there exactly at 12 o'clock, okay? For the Prime Minister's question time, followed by the budget from the Chancellor of the Exchequer. But let me say good morning to my colleagues, Mr. Frank Davis, Mr. Olayomi Koiki, and my able producer, Mr. Francis Guy, and to all you wonderful people there. Felix all the way in Abedi, massive good morning to you. Special good morning also goes to Mr. Malik Dramani Mahama, Kofi Ali Abdul Yakin, and to the wonderful Sister Gina Latte as well. Wish you a speedy recovery. And as many of you who listen to us daily, Fatimu, good morning to you. Tosino, all the way in Russia, I salute you this morning. Well, and greetings to the Americans, to the Europeans, to the Asians, to the Australians, and to the Africans. Welcome to the show. Now, if it's the first time of listening to us, this is how Wednesdays go. I'm going to bring you the quote for the day. The weather forecast will follow suit. Then the travel update will follow as well. Then from thence we move on to have a look at some of the stories making the rounds known as global trotting. That will take us to 11 o'clock when we'll be having Mr. Olayomi Koiki, who will be joining us to bring you updates from Nigeria. Then after that, 11:30 exactly, we'll open the lines for you to add your voice to the discussions. We move on from their hands and exactement at 12 o'clock I'll be taking you to the Houses of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. The reading of the budget by the Chancellor of the Exchequer. So in a gist, that is what we're going to be doing today, but I want to welcome you once again. Playing in the background, Enyo, he is good. Who is good? Not the Chancellor of the Exchequer. God is good. But I beseech you, brethren, by the mercies of God, share the broadcast with your friends and loved ones and invite them to like our pages as well.
For your love and your grace, for your faithfulness each day. All honor, all glory to you.
10:42 now, so let's crack on. What does the quote for the day says this morning? It says that, hey, the foundation of any successful relationship between two individuals is their understanding of each other and the knowledge that they have something in common. Do you have something in common with me? Yes, that's why you tune in this morning to listen to me. But every relationship that you have to go through, you have to know that you have something in common, and that is what fosters that good atmosphere for that relationship to blossom. So once again, welcome. Now let's move on to the weather front. It's been quite mild and a bit cloudy this morning on my way to the studio. But hey, is there going to be any rain or anything of the sort? That I'm not very sure. But let me tell you from here. Well, this afternoon will continue mostly dry, cloudy, and breezy. There may be a few breaks in the cloud to reveal some spells of sunshine. A mild day expected as well. Moderate southwesterly winds expected as well. And tonight it will remain mostly cloudy. The southwesterly winds will continue, and it will also remain mild overnight. When it comes to the temperature is going to be 18 degrees. The lower is going to be 11 degrees. UV level is going to be low. Pollution is going to be low as well. Sunshine is going to be at 17:43 and sunrise for tomorrow morning 07:45 hours. And that brings us to the end of the weather forecast. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and once we come back, I'll bring you the travel updates. Well, it's Lake Britain. I hit the M25 this morning. Well, they gave a warning that if you are not going to drive 20 miles per hour speed, then you better off using another route for your travels. However, we know that the police have got to apprehend a few of them here and there, but we will bring you more on the travels wherever you are. So stay tuned, don't you go away. It is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London.
Hello, lovely listeners. Tune in to the renewed show with Charlotte. Make it a date to listen to me this and every Thursday at 5 p.m. on Star Radio UK. Tune in to an hour of power, an hour of encouragement, an hour to inspire you to stay positive and strong in this season. See you there and listen.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Okay, so keep your eyes on the roads, keep your eyes on the roads. So we're keeping updated. I promise I'll on the Star Radio Travel Update that comes to where every weekday from 10:40. It's now what? 10:45. So what's happening on the travel this morning? On the underground, a couple of delays there, but let me bring you details of it. Metropolitan line, minor delays between Moore Park and Amersham due to train cancellation. Good service on the rest of the line. As you know, Waterloo and City Line have got planned closures, so if you can avoid them, avoid them. If not, all the others have got good service there. Now moving on to the TFL rail this morning as well. Minor delays between Liverpool Street and Shenfield due to an earlier casualty on the track. Good service on the rest of the line. But keep your eyes on the roads, keep your eyes on the roads, and we'll keep you navigated. I promise, our bond. London Overground DLR are in, and London Tramlink are all in good service. I think I need a bit of a cafe. Well, when it comes to the riverbeds this morning, good service throughout. But it is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now moving on to the National Rail this morning. Avanti West Coast has got special service. East Midland Railway special service. Gatwick Express special service. Great Anglia severe delays. Island Line special service. Northern Rail special service. Cod Rail special service. And Transport for Wales have got minor delays there as well. But keep your eyes on the roads. Keep your eyes on the roads. I'm keeping navigated. I promise, our bond. Now moving on to the final segment of the travel update, that's the major roads in London. What do we have for you? Now I can tell you A4 has got closures, Central London Red Routes closures there as well, and South Circular A205 closures there as well. I promise you I'll be looking for any information pertaining to the M25 and the Insulate Britain protest that is going on. If it happens that there is any more, I will let you be in the know. But on that note, let me say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth. Enjoy your commute for today. But you know what? Continue to keep those eyes on the road.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hello, lovely listeners. Tune in to the renewed show with Charlotte. Make it a date to listen to me this and every Thursday at 5 p.m. on Star Radio UK. Tune in to an hour of power, an hour of encouragement, an hour to inspire you to stay positive and strong in this season. See you there and listen.
Hi there. Are you dreaming of owning your own house in Ghana? then you will need a well-documented piece of land that is free from troubles. I highly recommend My Africa Property for any size of land that you will need. With My Africa Property, lands are available in Prampram, Sopoli, Tohenia, Ogome, Dodova, Winneba, and many other locations at affordable prices. These locations are about an hour away from the airport, only 35 minutes from the motorway, 10 minutes drive from Central University College, 10 minutes drive to the beach, and close to Prampram Senior High School and Ghana Men's Soccer Center of Excellence. For more details, visit our website www.myafricaproperty.com or call our UK office on 0208 123 2523. For our US and Canada offices, call us on +1 585 184 994145. You can also email us at ghana@myafricaproperty.com.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour show is your best source into the property industry.
If you know he's been good, lift your hands and say, you were good, Lord, yeah.
This is Starr Radio UK.
In your car,
At work.
at home,
On your smartphone.
You are listening to Starr Radio Morning Show.
I'm here to sing my praises for all you have done. And I will lift my voice to give you thanks and say you are God. For your love and your grace, for your faithfulness each day. All honor, all glory to you. I will lift up my voice, I will stand tall and say that He's been so good to me.
All right, Enyonto, he is good. God is good. Okay. Now 10:51 from the House of London, and it's now time for Global Trotting. And as I say all the time, whilst you join us on this program, get yourself gathered up. If you are sitting, sit very comfortably. Make sure that you are belted up. If you are standing, hold on to something. Because hey, that gets bumpy at times. But you are sure of one thing. Safe arrival at your destination. Because I'm here and I'm going to make sure that you do so. Well, I am the one and only. Okay, so now let's move on to some of the stories making the rounds this morning across the world. But starting from home here in the UK. Sunak promises budget for new post-COVID economy. The Chancellor Rishi Sunak will outline further details of his spending plans at about 12:30, where I'll be taking you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time, plus the budget reading. And then Isolate Britain blocks road leading to M25. In a statement, the group says it is not concerned with endless injunctions and will target the M25. They are daring the authorities. My goodness. Well, that's what I say all the time. If you're convicted about your plans or what you want to do, you don't let anything deter you. So that's where they stand. They are all folks, but hey, that's what they said they're going to be doing. Well, wages rise will put 30p on a pint, says a pub chain. Clive Watson, boss of City Pub Group, says the rise will be needed to pay for higher minimum wage. Well, they want people to pay, companies to pay their staff or their employees higher at the new rate that is being introduced. Well, they say that, well, you know what's going to happen? That means that we have to charge more so that we can make that money to be able to pay the staff whatever is due them. Okay, so we'll see about that. I say it all the time, it's like giving with the right and taking with the left. Hands, of course. Now, Wayne Cousins has appealed against whole life sentence. Sarah Everard's murderer, Wayne Cousins, lodges an appeal to reduce the length of his jail sentence. Well, Well, it is his right, so he can do that. And so in the UK, a man has been charged with the murder of two boys. Instead of two boys, the 19-year-old is also accused of attempted murder and possession of an offensive weapon. Sometimes I ask myself the question, what goes on in that coconut of this? My goodness. Well, it is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, bringing you the stories making the rounds across the globe. Now, when it comes to the U.S., my apologies. When it comes to Brazil, first, let's read that. Now, senators back criminal charges against Bolsonaro. Senators in Brazil vote to recommend charging the president over his handling of the pandemic. And that's a question that I've posed all this while during the when the pandemic was quite grievous, hitting every community and every country. I did ask the question, if it's found out that leaders being told and being warned about what is happening and the death rate rising high, and they still decided no, this is what we believe in and this is what we're going to do, should they be charged? Well, an example is being set in Brazil. It said senators in Brazil vote to recommend charging the president over his handling of the pandemic, but he is a president, so how would that work? And Russia threatened gas supply in Europe's poorest state. Moldova has made history by buying gas from somewhere other than Russia. How will the Kremlin react to it? Well, you don't play that game with Russia, you know. yeah. And some of you who like comics, U.S. comic legend Mozart dies age 94. His political satire spared no side and revolutionized how stand-up comedy is now performed. Well, it is Starr Radio UK. Clinton aide has detailed sexual assault by U.S. Senator in a new book. Huma Abedin says she was assaulted after a senator invited her into his home. Oh my goodness. And U.S. experts back Pfizer jab for children over 5. U.S. experts back Pfizer jab for children over 5. Health experts say the benefit outweighs the risk and recommend the FDA authorize the vaccine. It is Starr Radio UK. When it comes to Nigeria, some of the stories that we'll be looking at. FG, the federal government lists designing its building jewelry brass for sale, values Baddest mansion as well. The federal government has begun the process for the valuation of property belonging to several politically exposed persons, including embattled former Minister of Petroleum Resources Designing Alison Madueke. Solutions to Syria jailbreaks in Nigeria. Jailbreak is not peculiar to Nigeria. It is a global phenomenon. However, it is not something that should be occurring with the frequency with which it is happening in Nigeria. This year alone, there has been how many jailbreaks in Nigeria? There have been 3 of such in Owerri, Kaba, and more recently, Oyo Town. So all this is going to be coming your way. The Oba of Benin, Ewere II, has banned one Roland Ogbegbo, a former Amuada head of servants in his palace, for allegedly posing as a second in command to the king and also engaging in other sacrilege behavior there. We're bringing you more on that front. It is Starr Radio UK. Blinken speaks to Sudan's deposed Prime Minister. The U.S. Secretary of State also called on Sudanese military to free all civilian leaders arrested. We're bringing you more on that front, so don't you worry at all. Like I said, Mr. Olayomi will be joining us at 11 o'clock to bring you updates from Nigeria. The Anglican leader is concerned by Ghana's anti-gay bill. The bill seeks to increase jail terms to up to a decade and force offenders to undergo conversion therapy. Well, the looted bronze cockerel set for handover to Nigeria, Cambridge University is the first British institution to return a Benin bronze to Nigeria. Well, looking at some of the other stories, Sudanese doctors treat wounded protesters as anti-coup marches spread. To what end? They will go on. And Zuma loses his plea to remove prosecutor corruption trial to start in April 2022. It is Starr Radio UK. In Paris, Benin, the Benin treasures is being exhibited for the last time before it is shipped to Nigeria. Well, one other interesting story that I want us to look at when Mr. Olayomi comes is former aviation minister Fani Kayode has described the controversial Islamic cleric Sheikh Ahmad Gumi as a dangerous snake, saying he is worse than the former Boko Haram leader Abubakar Shakur. Now, interestingly, he says the former minister made accusations in a post on his verified Facebook page on Wednesday while reacting to Gumi's stance on calls for the federal government to declare bandits terrorists. Recall the stakeholders across the country had recently asked President Buhari to declare the armed bandits who are wreaking havoc in most part of the north as terrorists to enable the Nigerian army tackle them properly. But Gumi, in his recent comment, had kicked against the call, insisting that such move would lead to the breakdown of the corporate existence of the country. Now, reacting to Gumi's claim, the FFK alleged that the cleric's father had once declared that Christians should not be allowed to rule the country. Now, Fani Kayode, who believes that Gumi is currently following the steps of his father, described him as a venomous snake and a wolf in a sheep's clothing. What do you think about that? It is Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. The final segment of the updates. Listen around, having a look at some of the stories making the rounds in Ghana. Over 300 female students risk eviction over unpaid rent. How? Why? And then 70 metro buses left to rot. What is wrong with us? Why do we love to waste the scarce resources that we have? We don't have it. The little that we have, we use it to go buy stuff, or somebody uses it to buy stuff, and we decide to just leave it there for it to rot. At least sell them. Well, alleged coup plot. Court declines Agoto's 10-day Kenya trip request. An anti-LGBTQI bill will be passed with common sense, Speaker is saying. And he has promised that there's not going to be any delays there. But 5 NDC MPs are filing motion to probe Akufo-Addo's use of chartered flights for foreign travels. That's 5 members of the NDC caucus in Parliament have filed a motion asking the House to probe President Akufo-Addo over the use of chartered flights for his foreign travels. The MPs in question are ranking members of the Parliament Foreign Affairs Committee Samuel Okudzato Ablakwa, Buzila North MP James Agalga, MP for Kole Krote, and Zenita Ajiman Rollins, Ajumako Enyan CM MP Dr. Ato Forsen, and MP for Ablekuma South Constituency Alfred Oko van der Poel. They are the ones who are seeking to probe the presidency or the president for using what? Chartered flights on his foreign travels. This and a lot more going to be coming your way. It is gone exactement. What is gone? Exactly 3 minutes past 11, and it is Starr Radio UK. Whilst we wait for Mr. Olayomi, enjoy this tune.
Everybody put your hands together. If you know he's been good, lift your hands and say, you were good, Lord, yeah, yeah, yeah. Everybody say, Lord, Lord, I'm here to sing my praises for all you have done.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
All around the world.
This is Starr Radio UK.
In your car, at home,
On your smartphone.
For your faithfulness each day. All honor, all glory to you. I will lift up my voice. I will stand tall and say that He has been so good to me. Ain't no star. Ain't no star. Luciano Simão. Everybody put your hands together, say, yeah, 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 yeah. He's a good God, yeah. Let's do, say, Lord, Lord, here we are, just as we
Your favorite Afro-Caribbean radio station.
to pour out our hearts and pray for the wonderful things. For your love and your grace, for your faithfulness each day. All honor, all glory to you. I will lift up my voice. I will stand tall and say that He's been so good. Take it outside. He's been so good to me. Ain't no star. Ain't no star. Ain't no star. Luciano Simão. Luciano Simão. Say it again, say, ain't no star. Ain't no star. Ain't no star. Luciano Simão. Luciano Simão. Your fellow ele está sempre. Hey, no, Yehovah, no. In your fellow Lord. Say it again, hey, no. You've been so good to us, Lord. Yeah. Lift your voice one more time. Hey, no. Yehovah, no.
the time, God is always good. He's always good. But for His grace, where would we have been, or what could we have done? And therefore, if you are alive, once there is life, I say it all the time, there is hope. There is hope for you. So wherever you are, it is Starr Radio UK. There is hope for you listening to us this morning. Yeah, some way, somehow, things do happen. What about that? But let me say good morning to Mr. Olayomi Koiki. Yomi, we can't see you. We can't see you.
Very good morning.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you though.
All right, let's give you one more go again.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Well, whilst he tried to give it a second go to see whether we can pick the visual from our North London studios, just bear with us. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Well, we're going to be looking at some of the stories that Olayomi Koiki has put across the Buhari's exit in 2023 solution to Nigeria's problem. That is what Afenifere are saying. Now, do you agree to that? Do you think that is what is going to pan out, or is going to work for them? Well, it is Starr Radio UK. I don't know. Do you think the going away of what do you call him, President Buhari, is a panacea to all Nigeria's problems? Someone will say they're not very sure of that. But let's see what happens. It is Starr Radio UK. Yomi, any luck? Okay. Let's see. He's gonna be calling us back. So wherever you are, don't you go away. It is Starr Radio UK. And some of the other stories, they're interesting one. The Pan-Yoruba Social Political Organization, February, on Tuesday, said neither the president, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, nor his party, the All Progressive Congress, can solve the problems facing the country. So who can solve that problem for Nigeria? It's quite an interesting one. But we hope to see what happens on that front. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Okay, let's take a quick break. We come back and we'll have Mr. Olayomi Koiki, who is joining in. Okay, let's see whether we can see him. I think it's working out gradually. He's going to pop up pretty soon. So don't you go away. Yes, now we have him. The image is going again. Don't you worry. With that, yes, for sure, we have Mr. Olayomi Koiki, who has joined us. And let me say, Yomi, good morning to you.
It is a very good morning from here, Mr. Archie. I know it's a Wednesday, 27th of October, which is also my sister's birthday. I say happy birthday to her to start the program. It is exactly the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. And I say good morning, good afternoon, from wherever you're joining us, and welcome again to the morning show.
Yes, welcome. What is the name of your sister?
Well, we just call her Tokes. A lot of those that were given birth to outside Nigeria would have been called Tokumbo. So that means somebody that was kind of brought back outside the country. But the short name is Toksi, but it is Tokumbo, and she's celebrating her 40th birthday today, and I can only say happy birthday to her before we kickstart the program.
Tokumbo, happy birthday to you. We pray that God will bless you with everything that you need. That you become what He has inspired you to be. All right then. Thank you very much. Yes. Okay, let's crack on. First of all, let's look at this story pertaining to the Afenifere statement that they've made pertaining to Buhari. They are saying that, well, we don't believe that Buhari nor the APC can solve the problems of Nigeria. So if they can't solve it, is it PDP that they're looking up to, or what?
Well, not literally PDP. I think they're looking at the whole architect of Nigeria that we've talked about so many times. Afenifere, their position is if the country does not restructure, there is no point going into another election. But the government doesn't seem to have listened to that. And yes, like that headline I've said, Afenifere have been in a very staunch block when it comes to critics of the government for the last 6 years. And I can remember when I went to Nigeria, I had opportunity to see, the elder statesman, and you could see that most of the time when he talks, he says, he dealt with, the fact that Buhari is in his 95 years old. He's a very elderly man, but again, they believe that the situation of the country cannot change until we have what we call a restructure of the country. But they've given the government before 2023 to restructure the country, but I'm not sure whether this present government would be doing so at all.
When they talk about restructuring, what are they actually looking for in there? What would they want government to restructure?
Well, there's most people believe the 1999 Constitution. It's one of the biggest threats. When it comes to the present government that we have at the moment. So that means this government needs to allow us to go back to the regional government. That is the position of the Afenifere. They want us to go back to where we were in the 1960 when the union was put together. But like I said, whether these particular government will listen to that. So, but when we talk about restructure, Afenifere position has always been, that particular stand. Let us, go back to where we were, before the military coup. So Afenifere has had that position for a very long time, for more than over 3 decades. But like I said, each of the government that were coming in have not really, touched on that, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, so let me ask a quick one, a final one on that front, because does the Oduduwa and let me call it the Biafran area, do they support the cause or the call for the Afenifere? Do they support that cause? Are they aligned with them?
Well, that has been the issue. The Biafrans do not believe that we can restructure the country, in as much as the Yorubas as well believe that it is too late. Some Yoruba still believe that the country can be restructured, and it might just be that maybe if only the government listen to them. So Nigerians must renegotiate our staying together. But a lot of people say Afenifere as a pan-social cultural organization, as a pan-Yoruba social political organization, have stayed too long by trying to demand the restructuring of a country that the government is not listening to them. So yesterday, Afenifere insisted that Nigeria must renegotiate the basis of its staying together as a country, saying the problems bedeviling Nigeria would not have arisen if the original constitution agreed upon by the country's founding fathers had not been jettisoned. This was contained again in one of their communique issue at the end of his meeting that was held in the country home of his acting leader, Pa Ayo Adebanjo. So as much as if you say that they're still talking about the constitution, that constitution is one of the biggest problem a lot of Nigerians are facing today, and that constitution means that going into another election, you are literally giving a renewal to a country where a constitution was put together, by a military decree. So even though they don't want the country to break away, but they want us to go back to the regional government. And what does the regional government mean? It was when every region, for whether it was the southeast, the northeast, or the southwest, were operating their own government, but they were paying into the center. As against what is happening now, you talked about it yesterday. Are we practicing, a federal system? But this is not working. And I was listening to carefully at, one of the governor of the southwest saying that we cannot, in 21st century, allow herdsmen to be moving around, when they could easily have ranches. Somebody like the governor of Kaduna State, El Rufai, you could see the frown in his face. He wasn't pleased with those kind of conversation. If we were in the regional government, all these would have been eliminated. But a lot of people are saying it is just too late for that now. And that is why people are now demanding a full self-determination to have a full process that does not even have to go to anything to do with Nigeria.
Well, listeners, it is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Bringing the time now to 19 minutes past 11. As you know, it is a Wednesday edition of the morning show. So we got just a very short time, but we have to make sure you get all the information that you need. So, okay, let me leave it to your court. Olayomi, yes, tell us more about what is happening in Nigeria. Over to you.
Yeah, just like what the one of our listeners on YouTube says, Victor Aguilera says, it is too late to restructure Nigeria. It is too late to amend the Nigerian constitution, dissolve Nigeria peacefully now. So you can see that that conversation is not going anywhere. Even I was looking at some of those NSAS. I was looking at the troll of some of them from last year, and a particular one of them went back to review the 1999 Constitution, and she said it was mind-blowing to see that Constitution is one of the havoc that has created what a lot of people are facing today. So let's go straight to some of those other headlines that we have this morning coming out of Nigeria. Federal government leases Dizeni buildings, jewelries, bras for sales, values Bade's mansion. That is coming from the headline. I'm sure a lot of us, from Nigeria, will know who Dizeni is, but not everybody from outside Nigeria might know who she is. So let me just quickly go through it. 1,620 items, including houses, cars, phones, laptops, vessels listed. The federal government has begun the process of valuation of property belonging to the several political exposed persons, including the former Minister of Petroleum Resources, Dizeni Alison Madueke. Dizeni property located in the Ibro Banana Island, Foreshore Estate, Ikoyi, Lagos include 18 flats, 6 penthouses located at Building 3, Block B, Bella Vista in the federal government layout. Other notable property listed include the former late Chief of Defense Staff, Air Chief Marshal Alex Bader, that was killed. It was killed just like you wonder a country that should have had a lot of security. These were individuals that were there for a very long time, but he was shot dead while making his way to his farm after he was out of the government. Wu's house is also in Wuse, and Maitana high-end neighborhood of Abuja were seized. So this is part of the headline this morning. The federal government have now decided, to bring those valuables auction. Let's hope it doesn't go back into the same hands of the corrupt politicians that will probably buy them out rather than individuals that will probably want to buy them. NNPC marketers inflated imported petrol figures under Buhari and Jonathan. Again, a lot of Nigerians will not understand. Somebody kept saying to me, Yomi, do not say we produce crude oil. Yes, we have crude oil, but we do not produce them because the production of the crude oil happens there in UK and some other part of the global community. Now, the former dethroned emir of Kano State and the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Lamido Sanusi, yesterday said that the petrol import figures were inflated when global oil prices went up during the administration of Goodluck Jonathan and the regime of the current president, Major General Muhammadu Buhari. He was speaking during a panel section during the 27th National Economic Summit in Abuja, said the subsidy on petrol was responsible for the inflated figures. Until May 2016, when the federal government announced a new petrol price brand of about 135 to 145 per litre, it's not the same price now. That price has changed completely of petrol. Private marketers imported petrol into the country and were paid subsidy claims by the government in order to keep the pump price lower than expected open market price of the product. The NNPC, also the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation in full, which has been the sole importer of petrol into the country in recent years, has been bearing the subsidy cost. It does the importation through the direct purchase, direct sales arrangement under the DA. So you can see the shenanigans that we have when we talk about, a country that is the 6th largest crude oil in the world. And a lot of Nigerians are still wondering why we have this crude oil, but we are still living in abject poverty. It's because some of the refineries have just been abandoned. We have 4 of them not functioning at all. So much money has been pumped into it by this government, the previous government, and the previous government, and it's just all kind of, crime against humanity. And at that same point, somebody like Ken Saro-Wiwa was killed while he was fighting for the environmental damage that was done in the particular area where crude oil was being extracted. It was murdered, by the late former dictator as well, Sani Abacha in 1995. 8 of the Ogonis were killed, and Nigeria was suspended, and all kind of things happening. And in still 21st century today, Sanusi says, I have said this over and over again, and when I say this, I want it to be clear that I say this when I was the governor of the central bank under the previous government, and what I say is not about a particular government. In 2015-2016, the minister then, Kwachuku, came out and said Nigeria was importing about 30 million liters of fuel a day after eliminating corruption and have transparency. But in 2019, the NNPC came out and said we were importing 59 million liters. So right there and there, just about some 29 million liters have been added to that figure. So, Mr. Archie, you can just wonder, the kind of corruption that is taking place when it comes to that sector. And it doesn't seem that anybody wants to, review and ask those questions. And the reason for that is the same nepotism, the same one particular ethnic groups that have held on to the power for a very long time, with their cronies from outside the globe, from also within the other ethnic groups, have made Nigeria today the poverty capital of the world, and also the number 3 when it comes to the global terrorism index. When you look at a country like Saudi Arabia as an example, they have the same crude oil, and the same Nigerians travel down there. The president is currently there on a program, on a summit, but thereabout at home, we can't maintain what we have to sustain 200 million Nigerians. And that is why a lot of Nigerians, especially the Yorubas and the Biafra, are saying we are better off not to be in that big player game of a Nigeria. Let's come out of Nigeria and let's maintain our own natural resources. Remember again, before I come back to you in the studio, 68 exclusive list is currently being held by the federal government. So that means a governor from the southeast do not have the right to control the resources right underneath, because the federal government says it belongs to every Nigerian.
It is a sad thing that is happening in Nigeria, because as you are comparing it to Saudi Arabia, it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen at all that Nigeria should find themselves in such predicament. But again, we talk about management. But as whether, even if maybe we need to get the Saudis, employ them to come and maybe manage the crude oil, and maybe in some way, somehow, that will work. But so far, we've not seen any good thing. We see people who are protesting in their communities, especially you look at the IPOP area or the Igbo area, where because of this oil, the crude oil, their environment has been degraded, has been destroyed. And if somebody makes noise there, and then they say, no, you're not supposed to make that noise, and they come after you, it's very, very sad. It's very, very sad, as you said. But hey, who knows? But it is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Ms. Olayomi Koike in our North London studios, bringing you updates from Nigeria. I'm Archie. Let's go back to Yomi for some more of the stories there. Over to you, Yomi.
Yes, 3 months, and it doesn't seem that the situation in Benin Republic, which is Sunday Igboho, is still yet being reviewed, and there's an outcome yet. There's a lot of pressure, with so many people asking the question, why is he still being held in Benin Republic when he hasn't committed any crime and he hasn't done anything, against, anyone? But we do know that the AGF did say, we have, Chief Sunday Igboho's link with the Boko Haram, of somebody that was, being charged against terrorism in UAE, United Arab Emirates, at the beginning of last year, and they have already been sentenced. That there was a kind of a transaction. There was also this one that had blown a lot of minds of so many people around the globe. That the AGF is pointing finger that he must have also delivered the letter that killed Delegiwa in 1986. If we look at the time frame, then he would have been about 15 years old. And the question a lot of Nigerians are asking is, what kind of system is being operated in Abuja by this Attorney General Federation? So the question still remains, why is Chief Sunday Adeyemo still being held in Benin Republic. But this coming Friday on the 29th, there will be another peaceful protest in front of the Benin Embassy in America in Washington, D.C., to demand is free out of Benin Republic. So that is also coming from that headline as well.
Yeah,
so
but Yomi, just a quick one on that. Has the Benin authorities said anything about the incarceration of Sunday Igboho?
Well, that's the question. I mean, they've kept very quiet. We do know that their system is completely different from Nigeria, but nothing has been said for almost since they came back from their break after a couple of months away, just immediately after he was arrested in Benin Republic while he was trying to make his way to Germany with his wife. Yes, the wife has been released. The passport of the wife has been given back to her. He hasn't traveled, with a fake passport. But the question is, because the Nigerian government has put his name out as a target, that is the reason why he was stopped. The Benin government says yes. Nigerian government has not made any demand or any request of him. But what we can say is, they want to find out how long he has passed through Benin Republic prior to the time he was traveling, and what was the reason and the contact he must have in Benin Republic. And the question is, if he has not committed any offense,
why do you hold him?
Why are you still holding him? And this is becoming now a kind of a diplomatic conversation between the leader of the group of Yoruba Nation, Ilana, Professor Banji Akintoye, that has fully relocated to Benin Republic to make sure that he is right there to monitor and follow the situation on ground. Yes, Nigeria do not have repatriatory treaty with Benin Republic, but yet this country is still holding Chief Sunday Adeyemo Igboho for the last 3 months since his attack. The last 2 individuals that has been held by the DSS have now been released as well. The female blogger that was picked up, while in the house of Chief Sunday Adeyemo while they wanted to kill him on the 1st of July, after spending more than 70 days, have finally regained a freedom with the last person in there as well. We're also looking at why Omoyele Sowore is still being held as well in Abuja. Omoyele Sowore was picked up just at about 2019 August thereabout, when he says he was going to be coming out for revolution now. He's been pinned down to Abuja and he's not been given his freedom. So a lot of people are now demanding that it is time now that all charges on him needs to also be allowed to let him go, because for almost 2 years now his wife and his daughter in America have not set eyes on him.
It's interesting because I want to, one of the days, I hope that we get their attorneys themselves to have a chat with, so that we know exactly what is going on with them. Because you talk about what you call him, Sowore's case like this. What is exactly going on? Are they going to charge him? If they are charging him, when is the case? All that, and with Sunday Igboho as well. But they're not. It's quite sketchy there. But we'll try to see that we will arrange to get one of the attorneys to throw more light on what is happening to them. But listeners, it is Starr Radio UK. Mr. Olayomi Koiki. I am Archie here. Okay, Yomi, let's move on to some of the other stories. Over to you, sir.
Well, we'll leave the other story to probably maybe later on in the evening when we come through for Naija Voices at 1800 hours. So make sure you tune in. Stay tuned with us. That's about 6 p.m. Local time here from London, when I'll be coming on. The conversation later on this evening will be the jailbreak in Nigeria. Who is behind it? What is the purpose of it? We do know that in just under a couple of days ago, and yesterday, there was another bomb that exploded in Oyo State, and we believe that that was the leftover from the one that was allowed, that took place when one of the hardened criminal, a terrorist, was allowed to be free from Oyo State. The governor of Oyo State has not told us whether this individual is still in the prison or he was part of those that was free, with among other 600 free, 600 criminals that have now moved out of the jail, and nobody knows where they are. Remember, Nigeria does not have a system in place. They could be in anywhere. They could be in Lagos. They could be in Southeast. And nobody would know that these are criminals that have been kept in the prison, and they're going to start living with, just ordinary Nigerians until they probably commit another crime before we realize that maybe this was one of those criminals. So the question is, how should we secure, the prison system in Nigeria, especially that, in the southeast, we've seen a lot of prison break as well, but the finger has also pointed back to the Nigerian government. Does that mean that the Nigerian government is now bringing this system of prison break, jail, back into, because we know that it is the Fulani terrorist that was picked up in part of your state that was picked up, jailbreak on his behalf. Again, we've seen similar cases. A lot of people have said that there's no reason why, just before we finish it up, that anyone in the, because the government has point finger at the IPOB of jailbreaking, the ones in the southeast. But we have been able to confirm that most people that are picked up are not left in the southeast. They're taken off far to the north part of the country. So the question then is, who is doing the jailbreak in the southeast region of the country and now is coming back to the southwest, which we saw over the weekend?
Just hold on. There's one story that I really wanted us to have a look at. The former aviation minister, Femi Fani Kayode, has described the controversial Islamic cleric Sheikh Ahmad Gumi as a dangerous snake. And he said he's worse than the former Boko Haram leader Abubakar Shakur. Have you come by that story at all?
Well, he would definitely say that, because I remember that he was a member of the PDP until some few months ago, somebody that spoke so much well against this present government, the president and every one of them, has now gone back. Like the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, said, just give him any food, he's ready to eat it. So we are not surprised that somebody like Femi Fani Kayode, that doesn't have, and this is what his father did, some few years when the father was alive. A lot of people believe that the father was also a traitor. So he's gone back, to the APC. And what do you expect that he's going to support? Yes, I've seen that Sheikh Ahmed Gumi, according to him, whose father was once a Christian, must not rule Nigeria, and who himself said the federal government must not declare the killer bandit as terrorist, is worse than Abubakar Shekau, and Ali Banawi is a venom snake and a wolf in the sheep clothing. A lot of people will also say the same thing to him as well.
Well, listeners, you want to know more this evening, exactly at 18 hours BST, that is 17 hours plus 1 GMT. Make a date with Mr. Olayomi Koiki. We're looking at jailbreak. It's not a movie, it's real. It's happening in Nigeria. But you want to know more, join Mr. Olayomi Koiki. Yomi, let me say thank you very much for that wonderful update.
Have a very good morning, and I'll be back again later on at about 1800 hours.
Okay, bye. Well, listeners, that was Mr. Olayomi Koiki bringing you updates from Nigeria. Well, quite interesting, and we got a lot more to come your way. But wherever you are, don't touch the dial. As I announced earlier on, the lines are open. If you want to join in the conversation, feel free to do so. Call us on 0208-133-2257 or 58. 0208-133-2257 or 58. Now, if you're in the US or Canada or the Caribbean area, it is 001-718-303-2737. 001-718-303-2737. You can also text or WhatsApp at 075-3966-1744. 075-3966-1744. Our Twitter handle is Starr Radio UK and email address is info@starradiouk.com. It is the Wednesday edition of the morning show, so in the next 22 minutes, I'll be taking you straight to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. So, just for me to sip a bit of water, let's take this quick break and sip a bit of water, and then we'll continue with the show. Stay tuned, don't you go away. Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Starr, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Welcome back to the program. It is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, bringing the time now to 11:39. Okay, so 21 hours, 21 minutes. My apologies. Let's see what we can do with it. All right then. Yes. Now moving on straight to the UK front. Just a couple of stories, and then we touch on ones that is from Africa as well. Now, the Chancellor of the Exchequer is going to be doing his budget presentation. It's for the new post-COVID economy. Chancellor Rishi Sunak will outline further details of his spending. We know that there's going to be some increment in wages. Well, but some people are of the view that, hey, you are giving with the left and taking with the right, or giving with the right and taking with the left. Well, robbing Peter to pay Paul. You've not done anything. Well, the weight riders will put 30p on a pint, says pub chain. Now, those of you who like going to the pub to go and have a sip. Yeah, Clive Watson, boss of City Pub Group, says the rise will be needed to pay for higher minimum wage. Okay, and another story as well. Wayne Couzens, appeals against whole life sentence. Somebody say it's his right. You cannot say why is he doing so. So it is right to do so, but it's up to the courts or the judges to rule as whether he needs or he deserves that. Now, Sarah Everett's murderer, Wayne Couzens, has lodged an appeal to reduce the length of his jail sentence. How would it feel? Somebody who has done something of the sort, how would that person feel once maybe they are released from prison? An ex-con, not just going in for maybe petty theft or something of the sort, but murdering somebody, raping the person, murdering the person. How would they feel? Maybe they'll give them a new identity, and maybe that is what's going to make them want to come out. If not, I'd rather they just stay in there. You are secured in there rather than coming out. Well, it is Star Radio UK. Now, moving on to some other stories. Yeah, Insulate Britain. Protests block roads leading to M25. As I said earlier on, Insulate Britain protesters have blocked major roads connecting to the M25 despite a new court injunction. Nearly 50 demonstrators from the environmental group have been arrested at the 3 sites, including on the A40, which connects with the M40 and the M25 in the West London during rush hour. Protesters also blocked the A206 at Crossway Boulevard in Dartford, though traffic is now moving in the area. There are 4 court injunctions in place against the group. The Department for Transport said the injunctions cover the entire strategic road network. Well, but they are still going on. Daring the authorities, bring it on. But well, to what end? It is Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now, moving on to a culpable charge here. Well, Brazilian senators have voted to recommend charging President Jair Bolsonaro over his handling of the devastating COVID pandemic. A Senate panel backed a report calling for charges against Mr. Bolsonaro, including crimes against humanity after 600,000 deaths from coronavirus. The findings will be sent to the chief prosecutor, a Bolsonaro appointee. Interesting. The president has maintained he is guilty of absolutely nothing, but the crisis has dented his popularity. Brazil's death toll is second only to the United States. There is no guarantee this vote will lead to actual criminal charges, as the report's recommendation must now be assessed by Prosecutor General Augusto Aras, who is expected to protect the president. The report alleges that Mr. Bolsonaro's government pursued a policy of allowing coronavirus to rip through the country in the hope of achieving herd immunity. It describes the president as the main person responsible for the errors committed by the federal government during the pandemic. The report's lead author, centrist Senator Renan Calerios, called for the panel's recommendation to charge President Bolsonaro with crimes against humanity to be submitted to the International Criminal Court. Brazil is a party to the Rome Statute, which created the ICC, so the International Court could take up the case. Would that happen? It is Star Radio UK. We'll be following it closely. It is Star Radio UK. I'm moving on straight to a couple of stories quickly, and then I'll take you straight to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's time. Straight here on the African continent, Blinken speaks to Sudan's deposed Prime Minister. How is his health and what is being done about him? Says two Sudanese. Apologies, but let me bring that. Two Sudanese trade unions say they will take action against a military coup that took place on Monday. The workers at the state petroleum company, Sudapet, are joining the civil disobedience movement, while a doctors union says it will enter a general strike as well. Demonstrations demanding civilian rule are meanwhile continuing in the capital, Khartoum. Now, earlier, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke on the phone to Abdallah Hamdok, the deposed prime minister, following his return home. Mr. Hamdok was arrested and detained during the coup. Mr. Blinken urged the armed forces to free all the civilian leaders it rounded up. Well, at least he has been released. There's a bit of hope there. But Sudan will reopen Khartoum Airport to all inbound and outbound flights on Wednesday. That's today. The head of Civil Aviation Authority, General Ibrahim Adlan, told news agencies that the airport will resume operations starting Wednesday 4 p.m. That is 14 hours GMT. The country suspended flights on Tuesday, a day after the military seized power and declared a state of emergency. It is Starr Radio, okay? It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Okay, moving on straight to some other stories making the rounds in other parts of the world, because we got a very, very limited time. Well, the Archbishop of Canterbury, the symbolic head of the Anglican worldwide, has said he is gravely concerned by the proposed new law in Ghana, which would impose harsh penalties on the LGBTQ plus I or whatever community. The bill is being debated in Parliament with a vote expected in a few days. It's supported by the Anglican Church of Ghana, despite agreement by all churches that they will not support discriminatory legislation. The bill seeks to increase jail terms to up to a decade and force some to undergo conversion therapy, where attempts are made to change people's sexuality. Now, in a cross-dressing and public display of same-sex affection will be punishable by fines or detentions. But you know, the Anglican Church in Ghana have decided, yeah, we just want it on. So they are supporting it. So what is going to happen there? If their headquarters here in the UK are saying that no, we are worried about what is going to be happening to them. What do you think? It is Starr Radio UK. Should they have consulted their bosses before taking that stand? Well, it is Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. And moving on still to a couple of stories before we bring the program to the first part of the program to a close. The Burkina Faso has resumed trial of Thomas Sankare's alleged murder. That trial is going on tomorrow, God willing. Once we have time, we'll be looking details at it. And then in South Africa as well, Jacob Zuma. A South African court on Tuesday rejected an application by former President Jacob Zuma to have the Attorney General dismiss his corruption trial in connection with the 1999 arms deal with 5 European companies. Zuma had asked the prosecutor, Billy Downer, be removed from the case, saying he was neither independent nor impartial. He accused Downer of leaking his medical records to the media, but a judge, Piet Cohen, who sits on the Pietermaritzburg Magistrate Court in the southeast of the country, told a hearing attended by Zuma that he was not persuaded that Mr. Downer is not fit to prosecute or should no longer be a prosecutor. As it stands, it has not been proven that Mr. Zuma's right to a constitutionally fair trial have been impaired, or that there is a real possibility that his right will be impaired, he continued. He therefore gave Zuma a date of April 11, 2022 for the resumption of this long trial. Well, some stories coming your way from South Africa. It is Starr Radio, okay? It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now let's move on to Ghana. before we bring the program to a close. The Ashanti MPP has said that our flower chief is ungrateful. The Ashanti Regional Communication Wing of the ruling New Patriotic Party has described their flower paramount chief as ungrateful. Now, Regional Communications Director for the party, Kwesi Chei, while speaking over the weekend in political shows, said, which is also okay, the paramount chief of Aflawo is just being petty and ungrateful because he knows very well that the E block in question was at 23% stage of completion at the time NDC left power. Now the E block is at 95%, so why would he come up with such ultimatum? The whole issue emanated when minority members of the Education Committee of Parliament toured some uncompleted projects in the country. They visited one of the E-block projects. They visited one of the E-block projects at Aflawo in the Volta region. During the tour, the MPs called on the Aflawo paramount chief, Togbe Azonogaga Menya Fiti, who then raised issues against government's failure to complete the project and further issued a 4-month ultimatum to the sector minister to complete and commission the project. Now later, responding to the Aflawo paramount chief's comment in an interview on the president Anado retorted, he is Aflawo chief the one to give the minister is he Aflawo chief the one to give minister ultimatum? Then he should go ahead and complete the project. The president's response seemed to have triggered intense argument as some residents of Aflawo described his comments as sarcastic and needless. The member of parliament for Buem constituency, Kofi Adams, has since asked President Kufuor to apologize to the paramount chief of Aflawo. Some youth who describe themselves as Voltarians based in the Ashanti region have also issued a 24-hour ultimatum for the president to retract his comments or face their wrath. Interesting. What wrath can they actually perpetrate or put across there? It is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now, interestingly, why I get angry about this, we don't have the source of wealth, or if we have it, it's not being managed properly. Let me put it that way. And therefore, when we seem to be wasting money, I get very, very worried about it. The management of the Metro Bus Transit at the Cape Coast Metropolis in the Central Region has allowed over 70 buses to rot for what they describe as a lack of funds to fix them. An investigation by the EIB Central Regional correspondent revealed that some of the buses have developed minor faults which can be fixed for the buses to be operational but have been abandoned. Out of the 70 buses, 50 are brand new buses with minor faults, while the rest were parked due to accidents. Now, sources revealed that some of the buses have been kept at the current location for over 2 years. When the manager of the Metro Bus Transit in the Central Region, Mr. Alex Bless was contacted, he said he can only speak to the media by an order from the nation's capital, Accra. Meanwhile, the number of existing Metro buses currently in operation in the Central Region are not up to 10, while 70 of such buses have been abandoned. Our correspondent, and that's what has gone on there. Now, interestingly, we don't have resources. We don't have the resources, but we waste it. Why do we do so? So you have projects that have been undertaken by previous government, and new government come into power, avoided into power. When they come in, they decide to jettison that particular project and just leave it to rot. It is the taxpayers' money, for God's sake. Now, if you are there to serve our interest, the interest of the country, then you have to see to it that such things are done. You can investigate, you can do whatever thing that you want to do about those projects. However, it is state money. So if it sits there and is rotting, what happens is the state's scarce resources that could be used for other means that is being wasted. And then we will start another one and we will not complete it. And another one comes. Well, I think it's about time that we have some reforms in our constitution, such that it will be amended that if you come in as a president, or if a new government comes in, they have to see to it that if initially they're not going to continue with the project, if they want to do any investigation, it should be swiftly done, and that project continue and make seen to be completed as well, so that we don't waste the scarce resources that we have. Now, 5 members of the NDC caucus in Parliament have filed a motion asking the House to probe President Akufo-Addo over the use of chartered flights for his foreign travels. Well, as you know, some excuses that was being given is that he needed a big bathroom, a plane or a jet where he can have his shower on. And the problem is, why does he need to have a shower? If you shower before you embark on the trip, when you get to your destination, and you are like me, who like showering like no man's business, if in winter time I have to shower at least twice, summertime I have to make sure that I feel fresh before I can sleep. But if I'm traveling, midway during the travel, I'll not go to have a shower unless maybe he has an ailment or something of the sort. Well, the MPs in question are ranking members of Parliament, Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzato Ablakwa, James Agalga, Zenita Ajiman Rollins, and then what they call him, Dr. Atto Forsen, and Alfred Oko Vanderpoy, who has filed this motion. Would it see the time of day or the light of day? Let me put it that way. Yes, the right way. The light of day. Will it see the light of day, or will it die in its cocoon state? Well, it is Starr Radio UK. This is why I bring the program to a close for you today. But as we announced earlier on, at 6 o'clock exactly, that's 18 hours BST, or 17 hours plus 1 GMT. Olayomi Kwake will be coming your way with Niger Voices. So make a date with him. He'll be looking at Jailbreak. It's not a movie. This is real thing that is happening in Nigeria. On that note, let me say thank you very much. We'll take a quick break, and I prepare to bring you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. Stay tuned. Don't you go away. I am Archie. Have a lovely afternoon. Bye-bye for now.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Starr, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hello, lovely listeners. Tune in to the renewed show with Charlotte. Make it a date to listen to me this and every Thursday at 5 p.m. on Starr Radio UK. Tune in to an hour of power, an hour of encouragement, an hour to inspire you to stay positive and strong in this season. See you there and listen.
Hi there. Are you dreaming of owning your own house in Ghana? Then you will need a well-documented piece of land that is free from troubles. I highly recommend My Africa Property for any size of land that you will need. With My Africa Property, lands are available in Prampram, Sopoli, Tohenia, Ogome, Dodova, Winneba, and many other locations at affordable prices. These locations are about an hour away from the airport, only 35 minutes from the motorway, 10 minutes drive from Central University College, 10 minutes drive to the beach, and close to Prampram Senior High School and Ghana Men's Soccer Center of Excellence. For more details, visit our website www.myafricaproperty.com or call our UK office on 0208 123 2523. For our US and Canada offices, call us on +1 585 184 994145. You can also email us at ghana@myafricaproperty.com.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour show is your best source into the property industry.
Tune in to On Point here on Starr Radio UK with Empress Regina every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT. Looking forward to your company.
Secretary of State is sleepwalking towards a political crisis. Key safeguards have still not reached the statute books 22 months on. Northern Ireland simply cannot afford this. So will the Secretary of State fast-track the legislation through the House of Lords and commit to passing it in the coming weeks so that there is at least a caretaker executive in place?
Well, I would say to the Honourable Lady, obviously it was disappointing, I have to say, in the summer when obviously we saw one of the political parties trying to bring down Stormont with various threats about what they were going to do. At the moment, I think it is important that we see stability at Stormont. We had the legislation. I'm sad she wasn't able to join us to speak on something she clearly cares about yesterday in the Chamber, and it is important that we see stability there, working with all the parties, making sure they're delivering for what people in Northern Ireland care about. That's got to be the main focus. The legislation that's going through at the moment will help with that, but the way we keep stability in Stormont isn't around legislation here in Westminster, it's the political parties at Stormont focusing on working together to reform education, to reform healthcare and issues like that that matter for the people of Northern Ireland.
Honourable Eastwood.
Name, please.
Mr. Speaker, the government is making good progress across its commitments under a new decade, new approach. As the honourable gentleman will know, only yesterday we were delivering on the elections bill, Secretary of State and I, from this dispatch box, while he was enjoying his love-in with the member for North Antrim.
Honourable Eastwood. Speaker, very glad to welcome the Minister to the dispatch box. One of the commitments that you didn't mention there, Minister, was the commitment of this government to bring in a package of legislation around language and culture. When are you going to do it?
Mr. Speaker, the commitment of the government to bring forward that package remains undimmed. I wouldn't want to today deny the honourable gentleman his anticipation and excitement about revealing exactly when, but he won't have long to wait. Shadow Minister Alex Davies-Jones.
Mr. Speaker, on another important commitment on abortion, we are clear that the cycle of inaction must end and welcome the Secretary of State's determination on this. But it is a serious matter that the legal obligations are still being ignored. So would the Minister confirm the report today in The Guardian that he intends to instruct trusts to commission services? Will that require primary legislation? And when will he act?
Mr. Speaker, as the Honourable Lady will know, the Secretary of State is leading on this, and I'm sure he'd be delighted to talk to her.
Order. I would now like to point out that the British Sign Language interpretation proceedings for both Prime Minister's questions and the budget statement from the Chancellor of the Exchequer will be able to watch on Parliament Live. I think it's important that people who do have should be able to listen about what we're providing. And I will say again that the questions and for the budget statement from the Chancellor of the Exchequer will be available to watch on Parliament Live TV. We now come to the questions to the Prime Minister. Number one is Neil Hudson. Dr. Neil Hudson.
Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others, during which my right honourable friend, the Chancellor, updated the Cabinet on how the government's plan for jobs is working, with higher wages, higher skills and rising productivity. He will make a statement to the House shortly, setting out how we will build a new age of optimism, Mr. Speaker. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Dr. Neil Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I very much welcome the A66 Northern Trans-Pennine project from Penrith to Scotch Corner. This £1 billion investment will improve safety and congestion and help to level up our region, supporting jobs, essential services and tourism. But we have to get the project right. Will my right honourable friend ask his government departments for Transport, the Ministry of Defence and DEFRA to work together pragmatically and reasonably with suggested route amendments to ensure local communities such as Walcott, Musgrave and Sandford are not left blighted by these current plans.
Mr. Speaker, he's right that the development that he refers to is part of an infrastructure revolution I think will transform the country, but he's also right that we should consider local feedback from stakeholders and the community when finalising the design, and so we will.
Unfortunately, the Leader of the Opposition is isolating, so I'm calling Ed Miliband to ask the question on behalf of the Opposition. Ed Miliband.
Thank you. Just like the old day.
Just to say, I presume you all want to get onto the budget, because all you're doing is delaying it. Ed Miliband.
I just want to reassure both sides of the House it's one time only that I'm back. Mr. Speaker, we all need the vital COP26 summit in Glasgow to deliver next week, because failing to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees will have devastating consequences for our planet, and that is shared across this House. Does the Prime Minister agree that to keep that goal of 1.5 degrees alive, we need to roughly halve global emissions in this decisive decade?
Well, I welcome the right honourable gentleman to his place, and indeed, I think the whole House will extend our sympathies to the Leader of the Opposition. I hope he returns soon. It is, of course, correct, Mr. Speaker, that COP26 is both unbelievably important for our planet, but also very difficult, and it's in the balance. Mr. Speaker, and he's right in what he says about the need to keep 1.5 degrees alive, and that will be, and it does depend on what happens this decade. It depends on the commitments that are made. All I will say, Mr. Speaker, is that already very substantial commitments under the UK presidency designate of COP have been achieved, and we've moved from only 30% of the global economy committed to a net zero by the middle of the century to now 80%. And every day as I talk to international leaders, we hear further commitments to make those solid commitments that the world will need. Whether it is enough, Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid it is too early to say.
Ed Miliband.
Mr. Speaker, I applaud the efforts of the UK presidency under the President-designate Sharma, but I do want to direct the Prime Minister's attention to the issue of this decade. I'll come to net zero targets for the middle of the century in a moment, but yesterday a very important report came out from the United Nations, which he will know, the UNEP emissions gap report. And on the eve of COP, it warned that far from halving global emissions this decade, we're only on course to reduce them by about 7.5%. Does the Prime Minister acknowledge, because this is crucial for what happens at Glasgow and after Glasgow, does the Prime Minister acknowledge how far away we are from the action required in this 10-year period?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, indeed I do, but I think what the House should also recognise is how far we have moved just in the space of a few years since the Paris COP summit of 2015, where, as I'm sure the right honourable gentleman will remember, the world agreed to net zero by 2100, by the end of the century, and agreed to try to restrain global warming by 4 degrees. We're now trying to keep alive the prospect of restricting that growth to 1.5 degrees. Every day, Mr. Speaker, countries are coming through with solid commitments on stopping the output of coal-fired power stations, reducing their use on internal combustion engines, planting millions of trees and investing hundreds of billions of pounds in the developing world. That is, those are solid commitments. Whether they're going to be enough, Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid it is still too early to say.
Full commitments. I just correct the Prime Minister on one point. It was the second half of this century set out in Paris, not 2100 for net zero. But here's the problem, Prime Minister, on this question of net zero targets for the middle of the century. It's easy to make promises for 30 years' time. It's much more difficult to act now. Australia has recently announced a 2050 net zero target, but its 2030 target would head the world towards approximately 4 degrees of global warming. Can I urge him? He mustn't shift the goalposts when it comes to Glasgow. It is about the emergency we face this decade. It's about the NDCs this decade. please keep the focus on 2030, not 2050 and beyond.
The focus is certainly on 2030. We have 122 nationally determined contributions already. 17 out of 20 G20 countries have made NDCs, and the commitments are coming through. And he's right to say that we need to keep the pressure up. What you can't do, Mr. Speaker, is go in advance of what is truly practicable for the world economy and for what people can do. This government will go as fast as we possibly can. But it was Labour's plans, which I think he endorsed, were condemned by the GMB union for which their paymasters, Mr. Speaker, for meaning that they'd be confiscating people's cars by 2030, and families would be only allowed one airplane flight every 5 years, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, let me tell him. What this summit needs is statesmanship, not partisanship, which we just heard from the Prime Minister. He should not be trying to score party political points on such an important issue facing our country and our world. That's never the way I did PMQs. Now let me ask him. Let me ask him about the crucial issue of climate finance for developing countries, because the reason that the Paris summit succeeded was there was a coalition of vulnerable countries and developed countries that put pressure on all the big emitters, including China, including India. But the problem is that the world has not delivered on the $100 billion of finance promised more than a decade ago in Copenhagen. The plan is to deliver it maybe in 2023. But I want to ask him about his actions. Hasn't it made it much harder to deliver on this promise that we are the only G7 country to cut the aid budget in the run-up to this crucial summit?
Mr. Speaker, I thought we weren't going to have any partisan points. Didn't last long. Actually, the first thing I did, one of the first things I did as Prime Minister was to go out to my first UNGA as Prime Minister, as UN General Assembly as Prime Minister, and announce a huge £11.6 billion commitment from the UK to helping the developed world to tackle climate change. And I'm going to say to the right honourable, yes, of course it's true, and we haven't cut that. We have not cut that, Mr. Speaker. We're keeping that investment. And let me tell the right honourable gentleman that this country is working flat out to ensure that we do reach the £100 billion commitment from the whole of the world. We're seeing the money come in from the United States, from the Italians, from the French, from the European Union, and it's quite right that it should. We have a way to go, Mr. Speaker. Whether we'll get there or not, I cannot say. It's in the balance. But the challenge is there for the leaders of the developed world, and I quite agree with the right honourable gentleman. They need to rise to it.
Speaker, it's one thing for him not to know what is in the Paris Agreement, but it's another for him not to know what's in his own budget. He has cut the aid budget. Of course he's cut the aid budget. He's abandoned the bipartisan belief in the aid budget across both of these houses. But it's not just on aid, Mr. Speaker, where they face both ways. They've got a trade deal with Australia, where they've allowed them to drop their temperature commitments. They're telling others to power past coal while flirting with a new coal mine. And they're saying we've got to move beyond fossil fuels and opening the new Cambo oil field. Isn't the truth, Mr. Speaker, that the Prime Minister has undermined his own COP presidency by saying one thing and doing another?
No, Mr. Speaker. And he's completely wrong. He's completely wrong in what he's. And I think he should withdraw what he's just said about the 11.6 billion. Because we remain absolutely committed to the 11.6 billion pounds that we're investing to tackle climate change around the world, and that is absolutely rock solid. And he talks about Australia, and I talked to the Prime Minister of Australia only recently, and Australia has just with great difficulty made the commitment to get to net zero by 2050. It's a great thing. And Mr. Speaker, I talked yesterday to our Indonesian friends, for instance, Joko Widodo, a good friend of this country, who's agreed on coal to bring forward the abolition of coal use in Indonesia to 2040, Mr. Speaker. A fantastic effort by the Indonesians. I talked to President Putin, I think it was yesterday, Mr. Speaker, and he confirmed his determination to get to net zero by the middle of the century. And that is what the UK is doing, working with countries around the world to get the outcome we want. It's still too early to say whether it will succeed, Mr. Speaker. It's in the balance.
The thing the Prime Minister has underestimated throughout these last 2 years is COP26 is not a glorified photo opportunity. It is a fragile and complex negotiation. And the problem is boosterism. The Prime Minister's boosterism won't cut carbon emissions in half. Photo opportunities won't cut carbon emissions in half. Can I just say to the Prime Minister, in these final days before COP26, we need more than warm words. Above all, Glasgow has got to be a summit of climate delivery, not climate delay.
Prime Minister! He talks about cutting CO2 in half. Well, that's virtually what this government has done, Mr. Speaker. Since 1990, we've cut CO2 by 44%, and the economy's grown by 78%. And that's our approach, Mr. Speaker. A sensible, pragmatic, conservative approach that cuts CO2, that tackles climate change, and that delivers high-wage, high-skilled jobs across this country. And our net zero plan, Mr. Speaker, will deliver 440,000 jobs. That's what the people of this country want to see, and that's what they're seeing. They're seeing wages up, they're seeing growth up, they're seeing productivity up under this government. And if we left it to the right honourable gentleman, the Leader of the Opposition, who is sadly not in his place, we would still be in lockdown. But it's a point that he might bring to his attention wherever he is currently self-isolated.
James Stevenson. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister will know that both I and my honourable friend, the member for Wolverhampton South West, have lobbied for funding for better training and skills provision for young people in Wolverhampton. Our unemployment rate, youth unemployment, was unacceptably high pre-pandemic and now sadly is the highest rate nationally. Would the Prime Minister urgently look at how the government can level up opportunity so that young people in Wolverhampton can get the skills and the confidence they need to find work?
My honourable friend is absolutely right about Wolverhampton. That's why we're working flat out to ensure that young people in Wolverhampton benefit from the Kickstart scheme, and we are working with Wolverhampton Council to ensure that young people get bespoke support for their return to work.
We now come to the Leader of the SNP, Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure the thoughts and prayers of the entire House will be with the family of Walter Smith, who sadly passed away yesterday, the legend that was the Rangers, Dundee United and Scotland manager, and many of us will not forget the day that he led us to victory over France at Hampden. Mr. Speaker, naturally, most of today's focus and attention will turn to the Chancellor's budget after Prime Minister's question. But before we turn to domestic matters, I think it's right and important to raise the dire humanitarian situation that is developing in Afghanistan. The World Food Programme estimates that more than half the population, about 22.8 million people, face acute food insecurity. 3.2 million children under 5 could suffer acute malnutrition. Given the history of the last 20 years, it should be obvious that we have a deep responsibility to this country and to its people. Mr. Speaker, they are dying and they need our help. It is only 2 months since the Allied forces relinquished control of the country. So can the Prime Minister update us on what exactly his government is doing to end the famine in Afghanistan?
Hear, hear, hear. I thank the right honourable gentleman, and he raises an issue that I know is on the minds of many people in this House and across the country. We're proud of what we've done to welcome people from Afghanistan, but we must do everything we can also to mitigate the consequences for the people of Afghanistan of the Taliban takeover. And so what we did, as he will recall, is we doubled our aid commitment for this year to £286 million. And we're working with the UN agencies and other NGOs to do everything we can to help the people of Afghanistan. What we can't do at the moment is write a completely blank check to the Taliban government, the Taliban authorities. We need to ensure that that country does not slip back into being a haven for terrorism and a narco state.
Mr. Speaker, the fact is there is a humanitarian crisis and people are in need today. There is nothing there about tangible actions that the government is taking on the ground now, because the situation is getting worse by the day. In August, the Allies ran away from their responsibilities in Afghanistan, and now it very much feels like this government is washing its hands of the legacy that it left behind. Because not alone are the Afghan people being failed on humanitarian aid, promises made to them on resettlement are also being broken too. The Afghan Citizens Resettlement Scheme was announced on the 18th of August, which talked about resettling up to 20,000 in the coming years. But more than 2 months on, Mr. Speaker, we've heard nothing. The Afghan people are being left with no updates and vague targets. So can the Prime Minister finally tell us when the resettlement scheme will open? Can he guarantee, Prime Minister, that 20,000 Afghans will be resettled, and when exactly is the deadline for that to happen?
Mr. Speaker, we made a commitment to resettle 20,000 Afghans, in addition to those that we brought out under Operation Pitting, which I think most people, most fair-minded people in this country would think was a pretty remarkable feat by UK armed services. And many of them are, of those 15,000 are already being integrated into the UK, into schools, into communities, and we will help them in any way that we can. And one of the reasons, and I'm afraid he's completely wrong in his characterisation of the stance the UK has taken towards Afghanistan and the changes there. We continue to engage. We engage with the Taliban. This country was one of the first to reach out and begin a dialogue. And what we are insisting on is safe passage, Mr. Speaker. What we are insisting, and just to get to his point where he rather uncivilly calls out, what we are insisting on, Mr. Speaker, is that there is safe passage for those who wish to come and settle in this country, for people to whom we owe an obligation. And that is what we are doing, Mr. Speaker. And I have answered the question.
David Warburton. Okay.
Thank you. As the whole House will know, today is National Cheese Toasty Day. A massive, it's a fact, a massive 4.3 billion toasties were consumed last year. They are the nation's favourite snack. And glorious Somerset is the home of cheddar cheese. So with the news that Wyke Farms in my constituency is now producing what I think is the world's first entirely carbon-neutral cheddar cheese, did my right honourable friend know that eating cheddar from Somerset can reduce your cheese consumption carbon footprint by 55%? So will my right honourable friend support our vital dairy industry by committing to enjoying a carbon-neutral cheese toasty today?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my only question is, why is it only National Cheese Toasty Day? Why isn't it International Cheese Toasty Day? And I hope very much that amongst its many achievements, the COP26 summit will bring the entire global community to a better understanding of the Wyke Farms carbon-neutral cheese toasty.
So Geoffrey Donaldson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister will be aware of the harm that the Northern Ireland Protocol is doing to the political and economic stability of Northern Ireland, and the very delicate constitutional balance created by the Belfast or Good Friday Agreement. In the command paper published by the Government in July, they committed to addressing these issues and recognised that the protocol is simply not sustainable. Does the Prime Minister accept that the conditions now exist to trigger Article 16 of the protocol in the event that the current negotiations with the EU fail to arrive at an acceptable outcome?
So we can negotiate. the right honourable gentleman is completely right. I'm sad to say in what he says, and we're working hard to secure an agreement by negotiation, but we need to see real progress, because he knows the real life issues on the ground in Northern Ireland haven't gone away, and if we can't see progress, as we've been saying now for some months, if we can't see rapid progress in the way that we spelt out in our command paper, then I think that it's clear to everybody that the conditions for invoking Article 16 have already been met.
Robin Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Airedale Hospital in my constituency is made predominantly from aerated concrete, which is known for its structural deficiencies and is now in desperate need of a new rebuild. As the Prime Minister will be aware, the Airedale Hospital recently submitted its bid to government for a brand new carbon-neutral hospital. It is fantastic news that this Conservative government will deliver 48 new hospitals, but can I make an urgent plea to the Prime Minister that the Airedale is one of them?
Well, Mr. Speaker, here with my honourable friend, we're hearing a little bit more. Indeed, the whole House will be hearing more about the spending for health in just a few moments. But I can tell him that we've received 120 applications for the biggest hospital building programme in a generation, and his application will certainly be amongst those who will get our most urgent consideration.
Thank you,
Mr. Speaker. This government is failing women and girls. From lack of rape prosecutions, no victims bill, to letting criminals off the hook. And now women and girls, including my own children, are being targeted with a sinister form of spiking through injections. It's always women and girls who pay the heaviest price. Now they are taking a stand today and saying enough is enough. So how many more women and girls will be hunted or excluded before the Prime Minister himself finally takes a stand?
Mr. Speaker, the reports of spiking are extremely disturbing, and as the Honourable Lady knows, it's already a criminal offence, and I know that the Home Secretary, my right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, has asked the police to update her on exactly what details they have of what is happening. She wants to give them the space for the time being to conduct their inquiries into what's going on. But I would ask everybody with information about such incidents to come forward and contact their local police.
Morris.
With COP26 being imminent, I would like to draw attention to what good work's being done in Morecambe with the Eden project. Wes Johnson at Morecambe and Lancaster College has put forward a programme to teach youngsters in Morecambe the international Eden ethos to, shall we say, propagate the goodwill around the world. I'd like to invite the Prime Minister to come to Morecambe and come to the Morecambe Riviera to see the Eden project site at the earliest convenience. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted to respond in the affirmative, but to my honourable friend, because I think the last time he asked me about this, it was to ensure that we got an Eden project in Morecambe. So it sounds from what he's saying as though we're making progress in that direction, and that is thrilling.
Ben Bradshaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure the whole House will want to send my right honourable friend, the Leader of the Opposition, our best wishes. And it's also good, Mr. Speaker, to see a few more Conservative MPs heeding the Health Secretary's plea and wearing masks in this chamber. But given we have had for several weeks now COVID infection, hospitalisation and death rates far, far higher than any other Western European country, was it a mistake to abandon all those precautions back in July? And if not, why are our figures so bad?
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable gentleman for his question, but the reality is that, of course, we monitor all the data very carefully every day, but we see nothing to suggest that we need to deviate from the plan that we've set out that began with the roadmap in February and that we are sticking to, that has given business and given this country to get on and achieve the unlockings that we've seen and indeed the fastest economic growth in the G7.
Jane Hunt.
Speaker, my Loughborough constituency
constituent, Sophia Dady, has composed a song about the positive action we can each take to combat climate change, which emphasises the need to clean, repair and protect. Will the Prime Minister join me in encouraging all UK schools to follow the lead of Fairfield Prep School in Loughborough and other schools across the world from Hawaii to Norway in raising awareness of this important issue through learning the song?
Well, yes, Mr. Speaker. Do I have to learn the song? I'll do my best, Mr. Speaker. And I thank my honourable friend for raising the work of her constituents and her constituent school. And it is absolutely vital that we not only recycle where it's sensible, but above all, we cut down on the use of plastics, Mr. Speaker.
Sarah Sultana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week it was revealed that fossil fuel companies, interest groups and climate denialists have donated £1.3 million to the Conservative Party and its MPs since 2019. So a simple question, no waffling or dodging the issue. On the eve of COP26, will the Prime Minister demonstrate that he is serious about tackling the climate emergency by paying back this money and pledging that his party will never again take money and donations from the fossil fuel companies that are burning our planet? Yes or no?
Mr. Speaker, all our donations are registered in the normal way, and I just remind her that the Labour Party's paymasters, the GMB, think Labour's policies mean that no families would have only to take one flight every 5 years, Mr. Speaker, and have their cars confiscated.
Martin Vickers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week it's UK Wind Week, and later this afternoon I'll be welcoming some young people from my constituency who see their futures in the renewable energy sector, which has done so much to level up the Grimsby, Cleethorpes and North East Lincolnshire. Will the Prime Minister give an assurance that the government will continue to invest in the skills and development of our young people to benefit the regional renewable energy sector?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, and I think the whole House should be proud of the fact that the UK now produces more offshore wind, still produces more offshore wind than it. Not hot air, Mr. Speaker, but energy for the people of this country. Clean, green energy produced off Cleethorpes, in the North Sea, and we're massively going to be increasing the volume of that output, Mr. Speaker.
Stephen Kinnock.
Mr. Speaker, a thriving steel industry is the foundation of a more productive and resilient Britain. Yet bickering between the Chancellor and the Business Secretary is blocking the chance to tackle the sky-high energy prices that our steelmakers have been facing since long before the current price spikes. With the pathway to net zero dependent on steel firms using more electricity, not less, will he urge his colleagues around the Cabinet table to now put in place a wholesale energy price cap, along with long overdue reductions in network connection costs? Mr. Speaker, COP won't work without a cap.
Well, Mr. Speaker, he's making a very important point about the high energy costs for energy-intensive industries, and that's why we've abated them, but with about £2 billion since 2013. But the answer is to do what we're doing to make up the long-term baseload needs of this economy by investing in nuclear, which I'm afraid Labour failed to do in their 13 lost years, Mr. Speaker, as well as in renewables.
Prime Minister's questions.
Order! Order! Before I call the Chancellor of the Exchequer to make his budget statement, it is my duty to take the unusual step of saying a few words. As Chairman of Ways and Means, as the House knows, I chair and have responsibility for the House's proceedings on the budget. I share the concern of many members of this House about the apparent pre-briefing of budget material to the media before any announcements had been made in this House. I understand the Chancellor's position and it's well understood that for a number of years, elements of the budget have been pre-briefed to the media in an embargoed basis to aid their coverage of it. But such pre-briefing, where the embargo makes clear that the material can be used only after the Chancellor has addressed this House, is rather different to what we have apparently experienced this year. Yes. That is the briefing to the media of details of the budget statement to be published before the statement is delivered. As Mr. Speaker has said, and all ministers know, important policy announcements should be made first to Parliament. Given there shouldn't be shouts of resign over there, that's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about courtesy to this House. Given my responsibilities to the House with regard to the budget, I must put on record my support for Mr. Speaker's stance on this issue and express a firm hope, which I believe is felt on all sides of the House, that we do not find ourselves in this position again at future budgets. But, Chancellor, we are all very much looking forward to hearing the remainder of your announcements, which you're about to make to us. I would like to know... Oh, no, you haven't. The Chancellor has still to give us the important parts of his budget. I remind honourable members that copies of the budget resolutions will be available from the Vote Office and Members' Lobby after the Chancellor's statement and, of course, online. I also remind honourable members we will have good behaviour over this next hour or so. Interventions are not taken during the Chancellor's statement, nor indeed during the replies on behalf of the opposition and the SNP. So we'll put aside all of those matters that we have just addressed and now concentrate. I call the Chancellor of the Exchequer to make his budget statement.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I've heard your words and those of Mr. Speaker. I have the greatest respect for you both, and I want to assure you that I have listened very carefully to what you have said. And may I also, Madam Deputy Speaker, send my best wishes to the Leader of the Opposition, and I know the whole House will join me in doing that. And now, with your permission, Madam Deputy Speaker, let me turn to today's budget. Madam Deputy Speaker, employment is up, investment is growing, public services are improving, the public finances are stabilising, and wages are rising. Today's budget delivers a stronger economy for the British people, stronger growth with the UK recovering faster than our major competitors, stronger public finances with our debt under control, stronger employment with fewer people out of work and more people in work. Growth up, jobs up and debt down. Let there be no doubt our plan is working. Madam Deputy Speaker, this budget is about what this government is about. Investment in a more innovative, high-skilled economy, because that is the only sustainable path to individual prosperity. World-class public services, because these are the common goods from which we all benefit. Backing business, because our future cannot be built by government alone, but must come from the imagination and drive of our entrepreneurs. Help for working families with the cost of living, because we will always give people the support they need and the tools to build a better life for themselves. And levelling up, because for too long, far too long, the location of your birth has determined too much of your future, because the awesome power of opportunity shouldn't be available only to a wealthy few, but be the birthright of every child in an independent and prosperous United Kingdom. Madam Deputy Speaker, today's budget does not draw a line under COVID. We have challenging months ahead. And let me encourage everyone eligible to get their booster jabs as soon as possible. But today's budget does begin the work of preparing for a new economy post-COVID. The Prime Minister's economy of higher wages, higher skills and rising productivity, of strong public services, vibrant communities and safer streets, an economy fit for a new age of optimism, where the only limit to our potential is the effort we are prepared to put in and the sacrifices we are prepared to make. That is the stronger economy of the future, and this budget is the foundation. Madam Deputy Speaker, the House will recognise the challenging backdrop of rising inflation. Let me begin by carefully explaining what is happening in our economy and why. Inflation in September was 3.1% and is likely to rise further, with the OBR expecting CPI to average 4% over the next year. The majority of this rise in inflation can be explained by two global forces. First, as economies around the world reopen, demand for goods has increased more quickly than supply chains can meet. Having been shut down for almost a year, it takes time for factories to scale up production, for container ships to move goods to where demand is, for businesses to hire the people they need. And second, global demand for energy has surged at a time when supplies have already been disrupted, putting a strain on prices. In the year to September, the global wholesale price of oil, coal and gas combined has more than doubled. The pressures caused by supply chains and energy prices will take months to ease. It would be irresponsible for anyone to pretend that we can solve this overnight. I am in regular communication with finance ministers around the world, and it's clear these are shared global problems, neither unique to the UK nor possible for us to address on our own. But where the government can ease these pressures, we will act. To address the driver shortage, the Transport Secretary is introducing temporary visas, tackling testing backlogs, changing cabotage requirements, and is today announcing new funding to improve lorry park facilities. We've already suspended the HGV levy until August, and I can do more today, extending it for a further year until 2023 and freezing vehicle excise duty for heavy goods vehicles. To help with the cost of living, we've introduced a new £500 million household support fund, and today's budget will support working families further. And in terms of our fiscal policy, we are going to meet our commitments on public services and capital investment, but we are going to do so keeping in mind the need to control inflation. And finally, I have written to the Governor of the Bank of England today to reaffirm their remit to achieve low and stable inflation. And people should be reassured they have a strong track record in doing so. I understand people are concerned about global inflation, but they have a government here at home ready and willing to act. And Madam Deputy Speaker, in a period of global uncertainty, you need to work hard to maintain a strong economy and be responsible with the public finances, and that is what we are doing. I'm grateful to the OBR for their work, and I'm pleased to say they now expect our recovery to be quicker. Thanks to this government's actions, they forecast the economy to return to its pre-COVID level at the turn of the year, earlier than they thought in March. Growth this year is revised up from 4 to 6.5%. The OBR then expect the economy to grow by 6% in 2022 and 2.1%, 1.3% and 1.6% over the next 3 years. In July last year, at the height of the pandemic, unemployment was expected to peak at 12%. Today, the OBR expect unemployment to peak at just 5.2%. That means over 2 million fewer people out of work than previously feared. And wages are rising. Compared to February 2020, they have grown in real terms by almost 3.5%. And I can confirm for the House the OBR's forecast for business investment has been revised up over the next 5 years. And because of the actions we took to support our economy, we have been more successful than previously feared in preventing the long-term economic damage of COVID. The OBR have today revised down their scarring assumption from 3% to 2%. In the depths of the worst economic crisis on record, we set out a plan for jobs, a plan that was backed by business groups and trade bodies, a plan that has helped millions of people and saved millions of jobs, a plan that the OBR have today described as remarkably successful. Madam Deputy Speaker, today's forecast confirm beyond doubt our plan for jobs is working. And Madam Deputy Speaker, disruption in the global economy highlights the importance of strong public finances. Coronavirus left us with borrowing higher than at any time since the Second World War. As the Prime Minister reminded us in his conference speech, higher borrowing today is just higher interest rates and even higher taxes tomorrow. So we need to strengthen our public finances so that when the next crisis comes, we have the fiscal space to act. Today, I am publishing a new Charter for Budget Responsibility. The Charter sets out 2 fiscal rules which will keep this government on the path of discipline and responsibility. First, underlying public sector net debt, excluding the impact of the Bank of England, must, as a percentage of GDP, be falling. Second, in normal times, the state should only borrow to invest in our future growth and prosperity. Everyday spending must be paid through taxation. Both rules must be met by the 3rd year of every forecast period, giving us the flexibility to respond to crises while credibly keeping our public finances under control. These rules are supplemented by targets to spend up to 3% of GDP on capital investment and keep welfare spending on a sustainable path. Madam Deputy Speaker, the House will be asked to vote on our Charter, giving members a simple choice: to abandon our fiscal anchor and leave our economy adrift with reckless, unfunded pledges, or to vote for what we on this side of the House know is the right course: sound public finances and a stronger economy for the British people. Madam Deputy Speaker, important as the Charter is, our credibility comes as much from what we do as what we say. So I'm pleased to tell the House that because our plan is delivering a stronger economy, and because we've taken tough but responsible decisions on public finances, the OBR report today that all our fiscal rules have been met. Underlying debt is forecast to be 85.2% of GDP this year, then 85.4% of GDP in 22-23, before peaking at 85.7% in 23-24. It then falls in the final 3 years of the forecast from 85.1 to 83.3%. Borrowing as a percentage of GDP is forecast to fall in every single year, from 7.9% this year to 3.3% next, then 2.4, 1.7, 1.7 and 1.5% in the following years. Borrowing down, debt down, proving once again it is the Conservatives and only the Conservatives who can be trusted with taxpayers' money. Madam Deputy Speaker, I have made 4 fiscal judgments in this budget. First, we will meet our fiscal rules with a margin to protect ourselves against economic risks. That is the responsible decision at a time of increasing global economic uncertainty, when our public finances are twice as sensitive to changes in interest rates as they were before the pandemic, and 6 times as sensitive as they were before the financial crisis. Just a 1 percentage point in inflation and interest rates would cost us around £23 billion. My second judgment today is to continue supporting working families. Third, as well as helping people at home, our improving fiscal situation means we will meet our obligations to the world's poorest. I told the House that we met our fiscal tests, we would return to spending 0.7% of our national income on overseas aid. Some people said this was a trick or a device. I told this House it was no such thing, and based on the tests I set out, today's forecasts show that we are, in fact, scheduled to return to 0.7 in 24-25 before the end of this Parliament. And Madam Deputy Speaker, my fourth fiscal judgment is this. Today's budget increases total departmental spending over this Parliament by £150 billion. That's the largest increase this century, with spending growing by 3.8% a year in real terms. As a result of this spending review, and contrary to speculation, there will be a real terms rise in overall spending for every single department. And public sector net investment as a share of GDP will be at the highest sustained level for nearly half a century. If anybody still doubts it, today's budget confirms the Conservatives are the real party of public services. Madam Deputy Speaker, our stronger economy lays the foundation for everything we want to achieve in today's budget. World-class public services and more investment in our future growth. Before I turn to the details, I'd like to thank my right honourable friend, the Chief Secretary. Yeah. Completing the spending review in such challenging circumstances was a tall order, and thankfully we had just the man for the job. Madam Deputy Speaker, at the start of this Parliament, resource spending on healthcare was £133 billion. Today's spending review confirms that by the end of this Parliament, it will increase by £44 billion to over £177 billion. And the extra revenue we're forecast to raise from the Health and Social Care Levy is going direct to the NHS and social care as promised. The health capital budget will be the largest since 2010. Record investment in health R&D, including better newborn screening, as campaigned for by the member for the cities of London and Westminster. 40 new hospitals, 70 hospital upgrades, more operating theatres to tackle the backlog, and 100 community diagnostic centres. All staffed by a bigger, better-trained workforce with 50,000 more nurses and 50 million more primary care appointments. As well as funding to deliver the Prime Minister's historic reforms to social care, we're providing local government with new grant funding over the next 3 years of £4.8 billion, the largest increase in core funding for over a decade. And we're investing more in housing and home ownership too, with a multi-year housing settlement totalling nearly £24 billion. £11.5 billion to build up to the 180,000 new affordable homes, the largest cash investment in a decade, 20% larger than the previous programme. And we're investing an extra £1.8 billion, enough to bring 1,500 hectares of brownfield land into use, meet our commitment to invest £10 billion in new housing, and unlock 1 million new homes. We're also confirming £5 billion to remove unsafe cladding from the highest risk buildings, partly funded by the Residential Property Developers Tax, which I can confirm will be levied on developers with profits over £25 million at a rate of 4%. And we've also reduced rough sleeping by over a third, but we will go further. With £640 million a year for rough sleeping and homelessness, an 85% increase in funding compared to 2019. Madam Deputy Speaker, today's budget funds our ambition to recruit 20,000 new police officers, provides an extra £2.2 billion for courts, prisons and probation services, including £500 million to reduce the courts' backlog, pays for programmes to tackle neighbourhood crime, reoffending, county lines, violence against women and girls, victim services and improved responses to rape cases. And over the next 3 years commits £3.8 billion to the largest prison building programme in a generation. Madam Deputy Speaker, all governments should aspire to provide greater life chances for future generations. But few governments can match our ambition. So let me now turn to what this budget does to support children. The evidence is compelling that the first 1,001 days of a child's life are the most important. My right honourable friend, the member for South Northamptonshire, has recognised this with her inspirational report. And we are responding today with £300 million for a Start for Life offer for families, high-quality parenting programmes, tailored services to help with perinatal mental health. And I'm pleased to tell the member for Congleton funding to create a network of family hubs around the country too, to improve the quality of childcare. We're going to pay providers more, with today's spending review providing an extra £170 million by 24-25. We're confirming £150 million to support training and development for the entire early years workforce, to help up to 300,000 more families facing multiple needs. We're investing an extra £200 million in the Supporting Families programme, and we will provide over £200 million a year to continue the Holiday Activity and Food programme. Today's spending review also delivers our commitment to schools with an extra £4.7 billion by 24-25, which, combined with the ambitious plans we announced at the spending review of 2019, will restore per-pupil funding to 2010 levels in real terms, equivalent to a cash increase for every pupil of more than £1,500. And for children with special educational needs and disabilities, we are more than tripling the amount we invest to create 30,000 new school places. And we know that the pandemic caused significant disruption to children's learning. We've already announced £3.1 billion to help education recovery. Today, as promised by the Prime Minister and the Education Secretary, we will go further with just under £2 billion of new funding to help schools and colleges, bringing this government's total support for education recovery to almost £5 billion. Madam Deputy Speaker, as we level up public services, we are also levelling up communities, restoring the pride people feel in the places they call home. To do that, we're providing £560 million for youth services, enough to fund up to 300 youth clubs across the country, over £200 million to build or transform 8,000 state-of-the-art community football pitches across the UK, funding to turn over 100 areas of derelict land into new pocket parks, and I'm allocating the first round of bids from the Levelling Up Fund. £1.7 billion to invest in the infrastructure of everyday life in over 100 local areas, with £170 million in Scotland, £120 million in Wales and £50 million in Northern Ireland, more than their Barnet shares. This will benefit the whole United Kingdom. We are backing projects in Aberdeen, Bury, Burnley, Lewes, Clwyd South, and not one, not two, but 3 successful projects for the great city of Stoke-on-Trent. But that's not all. We're also going to fund projects in Ashton-under-Lyne, South Leicester, Sunderland, Doncaster and West Leeds. Madam Deputy Speaker, we are so committed to levelling up, we are even levelling up the opposition front bench. Madam Deputy Speaker, levelling up is also about protecting our unique culture and heritage. The British Museum, Tate Liverpool, the York Railway Museum, we're investing £800 million to protect museums, galleries, libraries and local culture. And thanks to the Culture Secretary, over 100 regional museums and libraries will be renovated, restored and revived. And she secured up to £2 million to start work on a new Beatles attraction on the Liverpool waterfront. We're also going to review our museum freedoms and make our creative tax reliefs more generous. On current plans, the tax relief for museums and galleries is due to end in March next year, just as exhibitions are starting to tour again. So I've decided to extend it for 2 years to March 2024. And to support theatres, orchestras, museums and galleries to recover from COVID, the tax reliefs for all those sectors from today until April 2023 will be doubled. And they won't return to the normal rate until April 2024. That's a tax relief for culture worth almost £250 million. And Madam Deputy Speaker, this is a budget for the whole United Kingdom. Through the Barnett formula, today's decisions increase Scottish Government funding in each year by an average of £4.6 billion. Welsh Government funding by £2.5 billion and £1.6 billion for the Northern Ireland Executive. This delivers in real terms the largest block grants for the devolved administration since the devolution settlements of 1998. The whole of the United Kingdom will benefit from the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and over time we will ramp up funding so that total domestic UK-wide funding will match EU receipts, averaging around £1.5 billion a year. And we will fund projects across the UK, including funding for the Extreme E race in Scotland, the 22 Hebrides X-Prix, accelerating funding for the Cardiff City Region deal in Wales, and funding in Northern Ireland for community cohesion. And whilst today demonstrates the indisputable fiscal benefit of being part of the United Kingdom, this is and always will be secondary to the simple truth that we are bound together by more than transactional benefit. It is our collective history, our culture, and our security. We are and always will be one family, one United Kingdom. Madam Deputy Speaker, whilst today's budget delivers historically high levels of public spending, its success will be measured not by the billions we spend, but by the outcomes we achieve and the difference we make to people's lives. The budgets are set, the plans are in place, the task is clear. Now we must deliver, because this isn't the government's money, it's taxpayers' money. Madam Deputy Speaker, our stronger economy allows us to fund world-class public services, the people's priority. But over the long term, the only way to pay for higher spending is economic growth. And if we want to see higher growth, we've got to tackle the problem that's been holding back this country for far too long: our uneven economic geography. As we come out of the worst economic shock we've ever seen, we've got a choice: to retrench or to invest. This government chooses to invest. To invest in our economic infrastructure, to invest in innovation, to invest in skills, to invest in a plan for growth that builds a stronger economy for the future. That's what this budget is about, and that's what this government is about. Madam Deputy Speaker, infrastructure connects our country, drives productivity, and levels up. That's why our national infrastructure strategy invests in economic infrastructure like roads, railways, broadband and mobile, over £130 billion. To connect our towns and cities, we're investing £21 billion on roads and £46 billion on railways. Our integrated rail plan will be published soon, dramatically improving journey times between our towns and cities. And today, we're providing £5.7 billion for London Starr transport settlements in Greater Manchester, the Liverpool City region, the Tees Valley, South Yorkshire, West Midlands and the West of England. And we're helping local transport everywhere, with £2.6 billion for a long-term pipeline of over 50 local roads upgrades, over £5 billion for local roads maintenance, enough to fill 1 million more potholes a year, and funding for buses, cycling and walking, totalling more than £5 billion. The Prime Minister promised an infrastructure revolution. This budget delivers an infrastructure revolution. Madam Deputy Speaker, investment in our infrastructure is just the first step. We need to do what the people of this country have always done: invent, discover and create the ideas and technologies that will change the world. So we will also invest more in innovation. The UK is already a world leader. With less than 1% of the world's population, we have 4 of the world's top 20 universities, 14% of the world's most impactful research, and the second most Nobel laureates. We want to go further. I can confirm we will maintain our target to increase R&D investment to £22 billion. But in order to get there and deliver on our other priorities, we'll reach the target in 26-27, spending by the end of this Parliament £20 billion a year on R&D. That's a cash increase of 50%, the fastest increase ever. And I can confirm for the House that this £20 billion is in addition to the cost of our R&D tax reliefs. Combined with those tax reliefs, total public investment in R&D is increasing from 0.7% of GDP in 2018 to 1.1% of GDP by the end of the Parliament. How does 1.1% compare internationally? Well, the latest available data shows an OECD average of just 0.7%. Germany investing 0.9%, France 1%, and the United States just 0.7%. This unprecedented funding will increase core science funding to £5.9 billion per year by 24-25, a cash increase of 37%. Meet the full cost of associating with Horizon Europe. Establish the new Advanced Research and Invention Agency with £800 million by 25-26, and strengthen our focus on late-stage innovation, increasing Innovate UK's annual core budget to £1 billion, double what it was at the start of this Parliament. Madam Deputy Speaker, there's more to becoming a science superpower than just what the government spends on R&D. Our ambitious net zero strategy is also an innovation strategy, investing £30 billion to create the new green industries of the future. We've just issued our second green bond, making us the 3rd largest issuer of sovereign green bonds anywhere in the world. London last week was named the best place in the world for green finance, and on Monday, the new UK Infrastructure Bank announced its first ever investment, £107 million to support offshore wind in Teesside. And to build on this work, 1 week today, I'll be hosting global finance ministers and businesses at COP26. And Madam Deputy Speaker, innovation comes from the imagination, drive and risk-taking of business. That's why we've launched Help to Grow to turbocharge SME productivity. started a new co-investment venture capital fund, Future Fund Breakthrough. It's why I'm announcing today we will consult on further changes to the regulatory charge cap for pension schemes, unlocking institutional investment whilst protecting savers. It's why we're introducing a new £1.4 billion Global Britain Investment Fund, supporting transformative economic activity and our world-leading sectors like life sciences. And it's why today's budget increases the British Business Bank's regional financing programmes to £1.6 billion, expanding their coverage and helping innovative businesses get access to the finance they need across the whole United Kingdom. Madam Deputy Speaker, a third of our Science Nobel laureates have been immigrants. Half of our fastest growing companies have a foreign-born founder. So an economy built on innovation must be open and attractive to the best and brightest minds. Thanks to our brilliant Home Secretary, today's budget confirms the eligibility criteria for our new Scale-Up Visa, making it quicker and easier for the fast-growing businesses to bring in highly skilled individuals. And the Trade Secretary's new Global Talent Network, launching initially in the Bay Area, Boston and Bangalore, will identify, attract and relocate the best global talent in science and tech sectors, all part of our plan to make our visa system for international talent the most competitive in the world. Madam Deputy Speaker, if we want greater private sector innovation, we need to make our research and development tax reliefs fit for purpose. The latest figures show the UK has the second highest spending on R&D tax reliefs in the OECD, yet it's not working as well as it should. UK business investment in R&D is less than half the OECD average. We've reviewed the reliefs and identified two issues we are solving today. First, the reliefs need to reflect how businesses conduct research in the modern world. So, as many companies have called for, I'm expanding the scope of the reliefs to include cloud computing and data costs. The second problem is this. Companies claimed UK tax relief on £48 billion of R&D spending. Yet UK business investment was around half of that, at just £26 billion. We are subsidising billions of pounds of R&D that isn't even happening here in the United Kingdom. That's unfair on British taxpayers, and it puts us out of step with places like Australia, Canada, Hong Kong, Singapore, Switzerland and the USA, who have all focused their R&D tax reliefs on domestic activity. So from April 2023, we are going to do the same and incentivise greater investment here at home. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, £22 billion investment in R&D, the Net Zero Strategy, the Future Fund, Help to Grow, more regional finance, unlocking institutional capital, a more competitive visa system and a modernised R&D tax credits regime. Enough action to prove the hypothesis we are making this country a science and technology superpower. And, Madam Deputy Speaker, as well as investing in infrastructure and innovation, there is one further part of our plan for growth that is crucial: providing a world-class education to all our people. Higher skills lead to higher regional productivity, and higher productivity leads to higher wages. With 80% of the UK's 2030 workforce already in work, our future success depends not just on the schooling we give our children, but the lifelong learning we offer to adults. We've already done a lot. Our plan for jobs invested in apprenticeships, traineeships and the Kickstart scheme, but we need to go further. Today's budget invests in the most wide-ranging skills agenda this country has seen in decades. We are increasing skills spending over the Parliament by £3.8 billion, an increase of 42%. We're expanding T-levels, building institutes of technology, rolling out the Prime Minister's Lifetime Skills Guarantee, upgrading our FE College estate, quadrupling the number of places on skills boot camps, and significantly increasing funding for apprenticeships. We are also going to tackle a tragic fact. Millions of adults in our country have numeracy skills lower than those expected of a 9-year-old. According to the leading charity, National Numeracy, this costs individuals with poor numeracy up to £1,600 a year in lost earnings. People with poor numeracy skills are more than twice as likely to be unemployed as their peers. So today, I can announce a new UK-wide numeracy programme, Multiply. With £560 million, Multiply will improve basic math skills and help to change people's lives across the whole United Kingdom. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, we're building our infrastructure with new roads, railways and broadband, cementing our status as a science and technology superpower, and strengthening the skills of our people, the country's greatest asset. That is a real plan for growth, and that's how this government is building a stronger economy for the British people. Madam Deputy Speaker, world-class public services are the people's priority. Investment in infrastructure, innovation and skills will create the growth that we need to pay for them. But as Conservatives, we know that government action alone won't be enough to create a stronger economy. We want this country to be the most exciting and dynamic place in the world for business. And now that we've left the EU, we have the freedom to do things differently and deliver a simpler, fairer tax system. I want to begin with one of our smallest taxes, but a tax which plays an important role in one of our preeminent industries, shipping. Now that we've left the EU, today we start reforming our tonnage tax regime to make it simpler and more competitive. And we're also making it fairer for UK taxpayers. When we were in the old EU system, ships in the tonnage tax regime were required to fly the flag of an EU state. But that doesn't make sense for an independent nation, so I can announce today that our tonnage tax will, for the first time ever, reward companies for adopting the UK merchant shipping flag, the red ensign. That is entirely fitting for a country with such a proud maritime history as ours. And, Madam Deputy Speaker, I am sure the opposition will be delighted that red flags are still flying somewhere in this country, even if they are all at sea. Let me turn now to air passenger duty. Right now, people pay more for return flights with and between the 4 nations of the United Kingdom than they do when flying home from abroad. We used to have a return leg exemption for domestic flights, but were required to remove it in 2001. But today, I can announce that flights between airports in England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland will, from April 2023, be subject to a new, lower rate of air passenger duty. This will help cut the cost of living, with 9 million passengers seeing their duty cut by half. It will bring people together across the United Kingdom. And because they tend to have a greater proportion of domestic passengers, it is a boost to regional airports like Aberdeen, Belfast, Inverness and Southampton. Airports are major regional employers. So to help them get through the winter, I'm also extending our support for English airports for a further 6 months. We're also making changes to reduce carbon emissions from aviation. Most emissions come from international rather than domestic aviation. So we are introducing from April 2023 a new ultra-long-haul band in air passenger duty covering flights of over 5,500 miles with an economy rate of £91. Less than 5% of passengers will pay more, but those who fly furthest will pay the most. Madam Deputy Speaker, our approach to corporate taxation strikes a responsible balance between funding public services and encouraging the investment we need for a stronger economy. At the March budget, we took the difficult but necessary decision to increase the rate of corporation tax to 25% from 2023. Still, the lowest rate in the G7 and the 5th lowest rate in the G20. Alongside, I introduced the new super deduction, the biggest business tax cut in modern British history, and extended to the end of this year the annual investment allowance at its higher level of £1 million. Now is not the time to remove tax breaks on investment, so I can confirm today that the £1 million annual investment allowance will not end in December as planned. It will be extended all the way to March 2023. I also said in March that I would review the bank surcharge within corporation tax to maintain the competitiveness of our financial services industry. We will retain a surcharge of 3%. The overall rate for corporation tax on banks will, in 2023, increase from 27% to 28% and will remain higher than the rate paid by other companies. Small challenger banks are improving banking competition, which is good for the sector and good for consumers. So to help them, I will also raise the annual allowance to £100 million. Madam Deputy Speaker, our manifesto promised to review business rates. We're publishing our conclusions today. But before I set out our plans, let me say this. We on this side of the House are clear that reckless, unfunded promises to abolish a tax which raises £25 billion every year are completely irresponsible. It would be wrong to find £25 billion a year in extra borrowing, cuts to public services or tax rises elsewhere. So we will retain business rates, but with key reforms to ease the burden and create stronger high streets. First, we will make the business rate system fairer and timelier, with more frequent revaluations every 3 years. The new revaluation cycle will be delivered from 2023. Second, as called for by the Federation of Small Business and the British Property Federation, we're introducing a new investment relief to encourage businesses to adopt green technologies like solar panels. And I'm announcing today that we'll accept the CBI and the British Retail Consortium's recommendation to introduce a new business rates improvement relief. From 2023, every single business will be able to make property improvements and for 12 months pay no extra business rates.